Hey everybody, can you all raise your hand or not raise your hand, but just leave me a chat message if you can hear me. Liv, hi. Awesome, okay. Well, I will entertain the crowd for a couple minutes. We are waiting for Kelly to rejoin us here. Let me see, let me turn, there we go. Hi everyone, welcome back. Sorry about that technical difficulty. We have VP Wright coming up. I think we're just a few minutes behind now. I'm waiting for Kelly to rejoin us. And then we'll get back started again. VP, I'm going to add you as a panelist so we can get underway.
I'm actually also having tech issues. I've been trying to load Zoom on my computer so I could use a better looking camera, but I think this is just gonna have to work.
Right, we got halfway through and technical difficulties. Oh well. I'm sure Kelly had a beautiful introduction plan for you, but I'll just give a brief introduction since I'm here. And I'll have to see your face. But this is VP Wright. She is a founder, a mother, the DEI educator at Inner Glow Circle, and quite literally blows me away in everything that she does and stands for. And I'm going to toss it over to you, VP, because I don't even have the notes in front of me of your talk title, and I'm just being perfectly honest. I'm going to give it over to you and have you get started. I'll be in the comments or in the chat box with everyone until Kelly gets back, our hostess with the mostest. But until then, I want to turn it over to you so we can stay on schedule. And I know everyone's super looking forward to your talk today.
Yeah. So hello, everyone. My name is VP Wright. As Liv said, I am the DEI educator for Inner Glow Circle. I'm also a mother. I'm the founder of the Creators Corner community, which you can find via my Instagram. I'm a spouse, an author, all the things, right? So what I wanted to come and talk to you all today was specifically diversity, equity, inclusion within business and your coaching business specifically. So I do have some slides because I'm on my iPad here. You may not see my face as I'm talking through it, but you will see the slides. So because of that, I won't be able to see your questions. So once I'm done with my chat, I'll be able to pop back over to the chat and answer questions for you all. So please, as you watch your presentation and as I'm talking through it, it is fairly quick. Go ahead and type your questions in the chat, and then I will pop back over and start answering them, and we can come off you in chat and all of that as well. So just going to pop that over and we will get started. I'm sharing my content. Yes, any and all questions, please put those in the chat. Okay. There we go, sharing my screen, moving to Canva, and pressing forward. Awesome. So as it loads my slideshow. So yeah, so we are going to just do a quick little chat today on how you can support Black coaches, coaches of color, and BIPOC clients, specifically BIPOC clients. And BIPOC stands for Black, Indigenous, and People of Color. So I initially did this slideshow back in June whenever things were going down with the Black Lives Matter movement, but we had to have more and deeper conversations regarding not just how Black folk are being treated, but also just folk who come from marginalized populations in general. Since then, the curriculum has expanded a lot. And if you want to dive deeper into this, specifically this training, you can get that in the anti-racism, activism, and allyship training that's with Inner Glow Circle via our website. So that's available for you. It is pay what you can. So please go ahead and give to that. There is a suggested donation, but you do get some here for that. You can start this work right now, today, as you're building your business. And so let's just go ahead and dive into that. So like I said, we're going right into it and we're diving deep into it with action steps. So take some notes. This is a step that you can actually take even if you're working as a solopreneur and as a solo coach right now with no team. And this is going to be looking into not just your hiring practices as you go forward, but also who you want to hire or bring on as a contractor or someone you want to plan on bringing on temporarily, right? So in order to ensure that you can serve your BIPOC clients and clients of color effectively, you have to make sure you also include their voices at your company meetings and development. So this goes deeper than just, hiring somebody to do a training or hiring someone to work on your graphic design or even putting people into your marketing strategy, right? You want to make sure they're at the table and they're contributing as a whole. You want more diverse voices talking through that process. So 2 steps you can do that are hiring a diversity inclusion coach or expert or director to get educated on how you can run an inclusive and anti-racist business. So Liv and Katie are good examples of this. Whenever they were building their scholarship program, this is what they did in order to create the program. They wanted to make sure they actually had the space that was safe and supportive. And the second step would be do more diligent research when recruiting potential staff members of color. The excuse, I couldn't find any, is not an option here. So really taking the time to not only, get referrals out or bring people in, but also going into different avenues and different places where you can recruit folks, bring folks in and do more and have a more honestly diverse pool of employees or contractors or trainees, etc. That'll be the most helpful thing for you to do. Sorry, that's my daughter in the background. Like I said, mom of 2. The second step would be invest in training. So this is a bit of an additional add-on to the first step, but actually taking the time to train and then include that training within your process as you're building your business is important as well. So building a business that is foundational and anti-racism with its practices and respects the intersectionality of its staff, yourself, and your clients takes a lot. It takes a lot of learning to do. So having someone that can train you is going to help. If you're in IGC's program, you have me. That is what I am. I'm a DEI educator. But if you decide to go somewhere else, or if you're, have been through IGC and are in this round, whatever it may be, you do have some other options. I listed a few below. I'm Dr. T, Mo Motivates, Rachel Cargyle, it's phenomenal, Trudy LeBron, Simone McNish offer great options and are phenomenal facilitators within this field. So I would also say reach out to folks like them as well. And you can take that action and training so that way you are better prepared to not only work with folks who are of color or marginalized, but then you also have the space to create that and be more prepared to honestly foster more growth and facilitate more of the goals that you may not understand in the first place. You may not have the experiences, or you may not have the knowledge to do that just yet. So invest in some training to help you do that. Step 3 is divesting from partners that aren't committed to doing the work. If a business partner is not committed to doing the work, and I should put that in parentheses, I wish you could see my hands in quotations, doing the work, but will gladly take money from BIPOC folk and marginalized populations, they're done. You don't want to be associated with them, period. The reason why that's so short and so really to the point is because if you're working with folks who are in alignment with your values, then you also need to make sure that you are aligning yourself with people, no matter the company, no matter the person, no matter the product, whatever it may be. If you're trying to help dismantle or create a safer space for marginalized folks, create a more equal playing field, you also have to hold your business partners accountable to that. That may be hard to wreck with. You may, before coming here to this training today, have been working with folks who may have some questionable values, or may have done things that are kind of shady in the past, but you didn't know really how to talk to them about that. They are a reflection of you and you are a reflection of them. And if you're associated with that person and they could say something that's racist or offensive or could harm somebody or could potentially do something transphobic, that looks on you because you work with that person. So, be really diligent with who you're working with and take time to ask deeper questions, ask them about their values. Do they have a DEI plan? Do they have an affirmative action plan? What does their investment process look like, and who are they actually working with? Who do they bring to the table when it comes to their summits, to their events? All of those things are important. And if they're not creating the space to have a more equal playing field, and you are, then you can work with other folks who are doing that work. 4 is feature more Black, Indigenous, people of color, and marginalized coaches on your platform. So this is a great space to not only foster more collaboration, but also amplify other voices that aren't just your own. I am a big believer in collaboration over competition, not just because it's good to network and connect with people, but it's also great to amplify folks who may have a smaller platform, who may not have the resources or tools to build as you have. And it's a great way to also connect with other people who may not look like you or talk like you or may not live in the same area as you do. You know, especially marginalized folk. And this is both if they don't follow your platform or have not engaged with you in the first place, or you may have a hard time finding people, is because they do not see themselves present around you, or you may not see yourself or see them in your space, and you can't relate to one another. You can fix that by getting their voices on your podcast, YouTube channel, IG lives, interviews, story takeovers, events, etc. And this is so much deeper than getting someone to talk about diversity, equity, inclusion. Not everybody is me, you know what I mean? Not everyone is a DEI expert just because they may be Black or brown. But Black and brown people can be experts in every single thing, right? Marginalized folk can be experts in all kinds of topics. Do your diligent research. Going back to that again, there's a community that I run that a lot of folks in IGC are a part of, called Coaches of Color and Allies Collective. And so there are folks who are specifically of color who are in that space who network, and then allies who are there as well who are committed to doing anti-racism work, and who use our database that we have in there to bring folks in and have, you know, different collaboration opportunities or hiring opportunities. And they can reach out to them because they have their information via that database. That's a small step, but when you're taking the initiative from the beginning to have a more collaborative experience, to have a more community-based experience, to involve people who may not be from where you're from, but have really valuable information, you can diversify more of the perspectives and create more value, not only for yourself, but also for those folks as well, and your community members too. So foster collaboration by bringing more diverse voices to your platform. And I'll also note this too, creating a budget or a compensation or reward system that also compensates people for their time, no matter who they are, should also be something that's in your value system as well, because nobody should be working for free. Nobody should be working for free. Last point that I have here. If you have high ticket programs, but no payment plan, it is time to fix that. High ticket one-on-one services are common in the coaching industry. It's typically the first offer that most coaches have put out because it's the first where they can get experience with people. By only offering pay in full options, you are explicitly excluding primarily folks who are Black, Indigenous, and people of color historically because of how folks who are BIPOC have been treated on the financial end of things. There have been folks who have been historically marginalized when it comes to access to funding, haven't been able to secure higher jobs due to implicit bias, discrimination, and a whole list of other things that we go into within the ITC program. But because of that, a lack of accessibility within payments creates more of a gap between who has access to work with you and who doesn't. You don't want to create that circumstance, right? It's not cool. However, going in and adding payment plan options to your offers not only make things more accessible for them, and it may seem like an inconvenience at first for you because you want a bigger cash flow, right? Here's the flip side of that. When you have more payment accessibility for your community members and you can really help folks create more opportunity for themselves, they're not only going to refer you out to other people, but then they also know that you're someone that they can trust. They know that, you know, you are fulfilling results, you're providing guidance and services that you offered and promised that you would. You are, you know, over delivering and keeping to your promises, keeping to your word, but then you're also accessible through your payments, and you have ways to create that makes folks feel good and it's in their budget. That also creates a monthly reoccurring revenue for yourself, personal experience for me with this specifically, because I had a coach who offered a year-long payment plan for me and I paid it on time. It fit my budget. I was able to grow my business. And because of that, I also signed up for coaching because I had the money to do so versus paying it all in like 3 lump sums or 1 lump sum. I offered that same service to my mentees when I launched my business, and I had a $25,000 launch that lasted a year long. That allowed me to scale to 6 figures even faster within my coaching business because I had the accessibility through my pricing. So it's not just create the payment plans to bring people in and whoever it is and come in. No, it's creating the accessibility so the folks who really want to work with you, no matter who they are, have the ability to do so. Okay, so those are all my slides. I want to make sure we can come back over and chat for questions. Let me see. Liv, are there also any questions in the Facebook group as well?
Okay. Yeah, we have some questions. We definitely have some questions. And if you're here on the actual webinar on Zoom, feel free to raise your hand and ask a question. You can also post it in the chat. Anything goes. I'll be watching both places. And we do have a question on Facebook. So let me just flip over here for a second. The question, do I need to take all of these steps at once or can they be done individually?
Yeah, that is a fantastic question. They can be done individually. So something that I like to remind folks is that working on your diversity, equity, and inclusion plan is a lifelong process, and it's something that you're going to always be adapting and adding to or removing from or shifting around as your business moves and as your environment changes as well. There are laws today that are probably going to be legalized in the next year or 5 years or 10 years, and your business is going to have to adapt, right? So being able to shift with what's happening culture-wise, what's happening globally, being able to recognize those things, and going back and saying, okay, if I want to now start doing the training, start with training, right? Start there. And take this over the next year and communicate that. That's going to benefit you over the long run versus trying to get everything done all at once and then being overwhelmed.
Love that. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
It also makes it feel more like not easy necessarily, but manageable, right? And we know that entrepreneurs are balancing so many things, especially new ones. And so yes, like take it step by step, like V said, and always be focusing on it, but you don't have to do it all in one day.
Yeah. Please don't even attempt to try to do everything and change everything in one day. It is a process, truly.
Totally. I have one other question too. I don't think any came through on actual Zoom, but there's another one on Facebook, and it says, V, what have you seen make the biggest impact when it comes to taking inclusive action in your business?
That's a really great question. Biggest impact. So I think for me, and I know we didn't talk about it here, but we do talk about it a lot within IGC's program. My coaching methodology, I teach a very specific methodology to my mentees and also applied it for myself called the LIMITLESS method. And what I do specifically is when I'm coaching folks, especially folks who come from marginalized populations, I will, in the questioning process, ask questions that are tied to their identity and their experiences, versus kind of hopping around what's happening both presently or even future tense. So I dive very little into the experiences and identity portion and ask, well, how did this impact you here? How did this impact you there? What created that mindset for you? And as we dive deep into that, we can say, okay, well, since you recognize this, how can we move forward from here? What's great about that, specifically within the inclusivity piece, that because I do that, people feel really, really safe to dive deeper, and they feel really safe to be more vulnerable with me, so that way they can progress further than they would have, versus asking more more, I guess, low gradient questions. So for me, the coaching methodology, and I do this both in my group programs and my one-on-one sessions and my women's circle, it allows for more progress to be made. So that's what's been a really big impact for me when it comes to that. And then just a quick snippet. the accessibility in my pricing, because my pricing has been so accessible, has allowed a lot of folks, whether they work with me for free through giveaways or in my paid programs, to build for themselves faster, and they can make their money back, which is something that I really, really like to see too, because then at that point you're creating opportunity for that person as well. So I really, really like that.
Awesome. So it's like a very individualized approach, really, when you're working with your clients. And of course, you know, I love the ROI, return on investment component too. Beautifully said. So any other questions? Let me just swing back and check Facebook one more time, since I have, you know, a variety of windows open. One last question, V, before I let you go, because I know we're a couple minutes behind because of our own technical difficulties. But as a new coach, just graduating coach training, I know this from her. What is the first step that she can take when it comes to marketing her coaching business and it being inclusive? That's a big question.
That's a big question. So I think something that you can do, and I like doing this as well when it comes to when I was first building out like my target audience. When you're figuring out who you're marketing to, take time to build out your ideal client avatar. It's probably going to be a pretty close reflection of who you are. Take those aspects that you probably would resemble with other folks you're trying to call in, and build out their actual intersectionality, like identity spectrum. So build out different spectrums from different people. So that way, you know, they could be going through different experiences. They could be going through different areas of marginalization or privileges. Actually break those down person by person. You'll have your favorite things. You'll probably all have a whole bunch of those things similar, right? But what's going to make you different is actually going in and saying, okay, here's what sets us apart, and here's how I can still connect with these folks because of our similarities, right? Because of what those are. Flip side is that whenever something happens globally and someone may be affected within your community, and you know they are because you've done the research, you're not prepared to respond effectively to those folks and can adapt that and add that to your marketing strategy immediately. So you're not sending out anything that's tone deaf and completely out of range when, let's say, there's a protest going on in your city, or if, you know, like a whole something, I don't even know, a crisis happens, right? You can adapt and you can change that within your marketing immediately and make sure folks feel seen and heard by you as a community leader and a coach.
Beautiful. Genius. Thank you, VP.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being
here. I love you.
I love you too. So if you want to connect with VP, please do so. You can find her on Instagram at the VP Right, which is in her little video there. So easy to find. Again, VP is our DEI educator at Inner Glow Circle. She helps us with all of our DEI education for all of our coach training students. So if you're watching this and you're realizing you need more of that, you need more of her, you need more of coach training, then definitely book a call with us. It's innerglowcircle.com/book call, which I know Kelly has been sharing all day long. Coach training begins on March 31st and April 1st, and you will also get access to VP's amazing course, Inclusivity in Coaching. So you get it all, and thank you so much, VP, for being here. We are approaching our next longer break now. So we have a 35-minute break. You're supposed to be able to stick around and watch our trainings, but because of the technical difficulties, I don't know how to load them. So stick around. We will be back here at, let me tell you the exact time, 3:30 Eastern with Danielle Andrews. She's amazing. I literally could listen to her speak for hours. Like, she's so good. So come back here 3:30 p.m. Eastern, and we'll kick off with the last segment of the day, the afternoon. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
like Zoom was connecting and then it didn't. Hi, everyone. Yay. Hi, everyone.
Oh, Liv, anything you want to say?
Hi, welcome. It's been a while we've done this.
It's been a while. We missed y'all. So
Yeah.
today we're going to talk about how to make money while you're in coach training, while you're in a certification program. Liv, do you want to kick it off with number one?
Yeah, so we're going to try to keep this short and sweet and like a mini training for all of you because I know everyone's attention span is probably as shorter or as short as mine. So we're going to go through five tips, if you will. We're going to cover five things. Obviously, take notes, especially if you're in training or in any training, because it's super valuable. So the first step, and I actually just texted someone and invited them to this training, and they're like, I think I should come because I don't know what ROI means. So the thing is to understand your ROI and your income goals. So your ROI is your return on investment. So how much do you actually want to make from this investment? And so one of the things that we always tell people when they join is they're like, if they feel like it's too much money or it's so expensive, what you have to ask yourself, whether you're spending $5 or $500 or $5,000 or whatever, do I envision or do I count on myself to make a return from what I'm investing? So like, am I going to make back more than I spend? Right? And if you literally don't think it's possible, it's probably not the right investment for you. But the first thing you have to understand is what a return on investment is. It's being able to earn more than you put into it, and understanding how much you actually want to make. So if you're investing X amount of money each month, say you're investing $700 a month on a training program, how much do you need to make each month to break even? 700, right? Or more so that you can start making an ROI right away. For example, like I said, coach training is $700 a month at like regular full price on our payment plan. In that case, you would want to be generating at least $700 a month in coaching or coaching related services as additional income from your coach training so that you can be making back your investment, if not more. And there's a bunch of different ways to do that. That's what we're talking about next. But if you really want to get clear on your ROI, you always want to start with what you actually are investing and work backwards from there. So whether you're investing 700 or something else, you have to start asking yourself, from what I'm learning, from what I'm investing in, how can I start to make a return that at least matches the investment, so it's a break even, or goes into making an actual return or more than you invested. Want to do number 2?
Yeah, totally. So number 2 is creating an offer. So once you know, like, top level what your goal is, what you want to create, you want to break it down further and say, well, how am I going to create that, right? So step number 2 is creating an offer. So we're going to work with this $700 a month goal, right? Or sort of baseline return on
investment for a coach and stuff at this point too. So monthly.
Right. So what are some ways that you could get to $700 a month? You could do a online group coaching program that is $175 a month for like an online live course, and you could have 4 people in it, right? So 4 people that are paying you $175 a month to be in your course. Another idea is to be doing one-on-one coaching at $350 a month. So maybe you're doing a session, 2 sessions a month with those people, and you have 2 clients. Another idea is you have one-on-one client who's paying you $700 a month, right? And that totally works. That's sort of going rate for a coach starting out in the coaching industry, around $600 to $700 a month. Or you could create a virtual course. So let's say you record an online course and you sell 7 of them for $100 each. So many ways to get to that $700 level. And now again, if your goal is $1,400, you can double that. If your goal is beyond that, you keep increasing it or you change your offers. Liv, you want to do number 3?
Yeah, I love that. And I think too, it depends on what you're comfortable with and what your, previous experience is professionally or like in the coaching realm altogether, so that you can figure out like what you feel the most confident in. Because in order to do number 3, you have to be confident. So the third piece of this is you need to be offering your service or whatever is, whatever offer you've created, you need to be offering it somewhere every single day. So when I first got started in doing that, this was like before, there's definitely no Instagram Live at this point. But I would talk about it everywhere. I would personally email people that were former colleagues, friends from college, friends from high school, family friends, letting them know what I was doing and what the offer was. That's one way to do it. I wouldn't do that every single day. But that you email weekly, sharing it on social media and getting your friends to share. This was huge for me at the beginning, and getting referrals. I would personally text all of my friends and anyone I knew who I thought would support me, and I would say, hey, can you share about this on your timeline? Can you share about this on your story, or whatever it is? Ask people. If you're in training in IGC now, I think that's what I said on the first call with you all. It was like, you need to connect with your classmates. You need to be sharing each other's work just as much, especially at the beginning, as your own, even, because their network is going to grow your network and vice versa. And if you already have a huge following, that's great. But if not, it's a great way to get started for free without having to pay for ads, of course, or anything like that, which we still don't like to do. So direct outreach is key, especially at the beginning. If you build it, they will come is not totally true. You have to tell them that it's there. You have to be telling people every single day that it exists. People are not typically at the beginning going to randomly find your website. They're typically at the beginning not going to randomly find your offer. Of course, things like using hashtags and different listservs can help you, but the do is inviting people and talking about it yourself every single day. And if you feel like you're getting sick of talking about it, have other people talk about it for you. Okay. Getting people onto phone calls, like a lot, and we have a whole training in our Facebook group about this. It's a 3-part. interested about market research. But one of the key ways to figure out if the offer that you have is viable, if people actually want to buy it, and people only buy things that they really need, right? So you
Sure.
figure out if people need it. And the way to do that is also just to invite people to phone calls. A simple consultation script, meaning asking them who they are, how they found out about you, what they really, really need. And not only what do they need, but what are they willing to invest in because they need it so badly. And again, I think the link to our Facebook group is right in our bio if you're interested in that. And then I can help you find it in there if you can't. But you really want to just be having as many conversations about your offer so that people know what it's like and that you can make sure it's viable.
Tell one new person every day.
Exactly. That's a good summary of my huge speech. Thank you.
Okay, so number 4, this is really important. Like, what happens if it's not working? There's always going to be a time where you feel like it's not working, where what you were doing for a while worked and now it's not working, or it's not working right from the beginning and you're like, oh, I should just give up, right? Been there.
Yeah, been there.
So that's where mindset work comes in, right? You have to have the strategy, certainly, but you also have to have the right mindset for success and knowing how to stay in the game and when to keep going and when to pivot and change course. You don't want to pivot too soon. So you want to look for any part of you that doesn't believe it's possible, that doesn't believe that people will ever hire you, that doesn't believe that you're good enough, that doesn't believe that your work is good enough, that doesn't think that that you're worthy of this. That's really important. Then you want to make tweaks if you genuinely feel an offer isn't aligned with who you are, how you want to serve the world, right? So let's say, and this happens, that you saw some girl on Instagram or some guy and you were like, oh, I love that. I'm going to create my own version, but then it doesn't feel right to you. People aren't signing up for it. It's feeling super weird. And you're like, okay, this isn't working for me, right? You have to listen to that. You have to decide to, change direction if you're going to have this work for you. So you want to make tweaks if you genuinely feel an offer is out of alignment. But in general, you want to stick with your offer. You want to keep learning about your ideal client. And you want to remember that every call is ideal client research. Every time you get on the phone, every time you even go out to happy hour with a mask on, or anytime you're meeting people in an online mastermind, everyone's an opportunity. Hey ladies, I'm so glad you're here. Every opportunity is an opportunity to get to know more about your ideal client and who you want to serve. Is there a strange man in the background? And so this is market research. You're always doing market research and you have to see the opportunity in that. Honey.
The straight your boyfriend.
What would you, I'm on a live, babe. What would you do if okay, this is sort of a really good it is a really good reframe. What would you do if you knew that it was meant for you to work with this person? What would you do if you knew you were meant to work with someone in particular? Then how would you show up? Not if you were nervous, not if you were, in your fear about it, but what if you really, really knew you were meant to work with this person? I mean, when I started working with Liv, I just knew deep down that we would have this long life marriage. So I just was so confident, I mean, no, Liv was one of my very first clients. I was nervous when I got on the sales call, but I literally would just drop in and say a prayer every time I got on the phone with someone. I still do this today where I'm like, God, if this is meant to be, if they're meant to be my client, if they're meant to be in our program, please make it easy. Make it easy for me. Make it easy for them. Let me have the right answers, right? So whatever makes sense for you and whatever works for you and how you sort of connect with your higher self, do that and be asking for guidance. You got to keep that mindset in check. All right. So you want to share your personal examples, Liv?
Yeah, so the last part, or step 5 or tip 5, we're going to go through some personal examples, but before I do that, I do just want to preface this with saying when both Katie and I got started, we had very, very simple, basic coaching packages that we practiced selling again and again and again until it became easy. There was not a lot of variation in what we sold. Not that if you have multiple packages or ways to work with you, that's cool if that's what you want to be doing, but it doesn't have to get complicated. It can be extremely simple. And I actually found for myself that my very first coaching package was called Quit Your Day Job, Create Your Dream Job, or something like so basic. And it was the only sold. And I talked to everyone about it. If they said no, I asked them why, what could make it better, what in terms that would make my website copy better, my social media copy better, my sales calls better, all of that. But it was very simple. And Katie's package was very simple too. So
I had no name. Like
I didn't even ask you for a name.
When I went through coach training, and I went right like a little bit before you, right? And my understanding is that our working together was part of your self-discovery of, oh, I want to do this too.
Yeah.
And then you avoided me while you were in coach training because you felt like you were becoming my competition or some weird shit. But anyways, what?
Just kidding.
Yeah. No, but I didn't even know that people had names for coaching packages. I went through like the most dry, like basic coach training program. Like it was very thorough, but it wasn't like flowery at all. Like it was not, we weren't learning about marketing. We weren't learning about sales. We weren't learning about branding. It was literally like, here's how to coach. Here's the kinds of questions to ask. And I didn't even know people had like cute names for packages.
Yeah, that must have came out like right after we started working together, because I didn't know when I hired you, nor did I expect there to be some fancy name.
What's your name? But see, that's like such a great point, because I think that this is the shit that people obsess over, and it kind of ties into like the niche conversation. Like, I just think that you need to show up and serve, and that the right people will be guided to you if you put yourself out there and share what you do and
and always be
who you serve. But literally no one is gonna like not hire, like no one is gonna be like, so I'm really like excited about your $600 a month coaching package. Just curious, what's the name of your package? I'm gonna start asking that on dates. Just kidding. I don't go on dates.
Your package.
What's the name of your package? All right. You can start asking that on dates. You're single.
Yeah, I'll let you know how it goes. Okay, but anyway, back to the coaching packages. The unnamed coaching package by Katie DePaula, $150 per session for weekly coaching, or $600 a month. And I think you had a 4-month commitment, if I remember.
You know what? I liked that when you were paying me. Now I feel like I have to pay you. Just kidding.
Well, I abundance in a lot of directions right now.
No, we pay each other.
Okay. Yeah. And we enjoy it.
But yeah, Liv was paying me like, you were paying me $600 a month.
Yeah.
And then $800. I upsold you, man.
Yeah, and I was broke as shit at the time too. But I had to make it work because I really saw the value of it. I was like canceling my hair appointments, anything extra I had, putting some of it on a credit card. But I was like, this thing so bad. So you did a good job with that.
Well, and I remember, I think I asked you that like age-old question of, well, where could you take the money from? Because you were like, I don't have an extra $600 a month. And I was like, okay, well, like, let's just think about it. Like, if you want to do this, where could you take the money from? Or when's the last time, I think, and then we also talked about when was the last time that you invested this kind of money? And didn't you say it was like on some trip where you got drunk with a bunch of friends?
I said I was saving my money to go to Jamaica with a bunch of my girlfriends.
Oh.
Price of like the coaching. And I was like, ooh, so like, but also Jamaica 2021, anyone? Because I still haven't gone.
So you canceled, you didn't go with your girlfriends and you started coaching with me instead?
Yeah, I didn't go on the trip.
Dude, that's fucking loyalty to yourself and to me.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to come home from Jamaica, like out $3,000, like probably with some great stories and a hangover and 10 pounds. And I was like, this seems to make more sense.
I think on a coaching call, that's a question that people can often think is weird or not appropriate, but like it's a great question asking someone like, well, I know it's a lot of money. The first time I hired my coach, or the time like when I decided to go through coach training certification, I was like, holy shit. But what else would you spend this money on? I remember one client, and we have so many client stories, but I remember one client being like, that's my monthly handbag budget. And I was like, your monthly handbag budget is $700 a month? Like, okay, like, could you like not buy 6 handbags and then like pick up on the handbags when this is done, you know? And so it's worth asking someone how they spend their money and if they'd be open to reallocating it to the coaching investment, only if they want to. Like, people all the time say, I really want to do this, but I can't because of the money. Your job is then to say, if you really want to do this, my job is to help you figure out how. Is there any place you could reallocate?
Yeah.
And guys, we're not talking about like, don't feed your kids. Like, no, we're talking about like, you know, maybe like, is there money that you were planning on vacationing with in 2020 that you're not anymore, that's still sitting in your savings account that you could invest in yourself or your business with, or things like that? So
I want to say too, in terms of like finding the investment, like my package was very similar to Katie's. And I believe you also had the option too of, instead of the weekly coaching, doing it bi-weekly, but over a longer period of time. And so like if someone really wants to do it, but can't come up with $600 a month, we'll use that number. Could they do 2 sessions a month at $300, but instead of month commitment, stretch it out to a 6-month commitment so that you can still like get all of the work completed? And that always also depends on like what goals they're working towards and such, and things like that. But that was something that I did as well. I was like, we can either work for 90 days or 3 months.
right.
$500 a month for weekly sessions. So I know it's recommended, and we recommend people start at 150, but for some reason I didn't feel good enough. And I felt like I had to charge 125, which is kind of a silly difference in the long run. But it made me feel more comfortable and confident to sell it on the phone. So I went with that. But my other option was to stretch it to 6 months and have people paying $250 per month for 6 months for biweekly sessions. The only package I sold for a year. And I say, because once you get really good at it, you can't quit on yourself. Like, always be learning and tweaking and getting information for people that say yes and say no. But don't quit on your offer because it doesn't sell the first time.
100% no.
I mean, we're on round 40 and 41 of coach training, and I'd like to think that we're getting better every time based on
we are. But we still have challenges, and we're always having to improve, and the market's changing every year, and you have to stay up to date. So I started at $600 a month, $150 a session. Liv started at $125 a session, which was $500 a month, or biweekly at $250 a month. I also launched a group program with some friends that I met through coach training for like $350 a month. It was called Ready, Set, Glow. And then a couple years into my practice, I launched IGC as like a membership. And at the time it was just a community, not a certification course or training. And that was $200 a month in the very beginning. So I had all different sorts of levels of income and tiers of access. And IGC was really a response, as was Ready, Set, Glow, my group program, to people saying, I really want to work with you, but I just can't, swing the $600 a month right now. And so what I started to do was raise my one-on-one prices, $600, then $800, and eventually $1,000. And now it's even a bit more than that. But I started to raise that, but then open up these other tiers of access so that I could still stay accessible. And then Liv, I think you also had like a $99 6-week course, right?
I always like to play my game. How do I make an extra $1,000 this month? And so one of the things that I did when I first, it must have been just a little over a year in, because I was in Nashville. It's how I always remember my life based on where I was living, because I moved so many times. But I launched a 4-week course. It was $99. I pay one time for live trainings. And at the time I was doing a lot of business coaching. So it was how to write your business plan. And I broke a business plan down into 4 steps. I taught it or trained and coached around it for 4 weeks. It was $99. I got 10 people in it and I was happy. So easy. Again, like one of the things that I've always found the most helpful is like making things easy and clear, like what the outcome is, so that people know they're investing in something. It's clear, and they can know what to expect for a return. Just like what we're talking about today, you need to get clear on your return on investment so that you're not like wondering where all of your money is and why it's not coming in.
Yes. So get clear on your ROI and then make a plan. If you just caught the end of this, go back and watch it from the beginning. We're going to post it on our page. You have got this. You've got this. If you're in our coach training, we're so excited that you're with us. We're going to be doing a follow-up to this next week and in our program. And if you're not in our training and you want to learn more about becoming a certified coach, go to innerglowcircle.com/become a coach. And we have a free workshop there all about how to become a certified coach and what it really looks like. So we love you guys. We appreciate you. And we'll see you again soon.
Love you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Hello, Danielle, right on time. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. For those of you who suddenly had the tech glitch when my computer freaked out, thank you for jumping back on. I'm glad I'm back. Crisis averted. Up next here, we have the wonderful Danielle Andrews. She is a health and wellness coach, a birth doula, an author, amongst other things. And she is going to be talking to you about wellness in 2021, especially important after the year we've had and the year ahead, especially important topic for us to have. So Danielle, I'm going to hand the mic over to you. Go ahead and take it away. You are on mute, by the way. Good. There you go.
Yes, I got it.
Great.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kelly. And good afternoon, everyone who is here on the webinar and in Facebook land. So my name is Danielle. I am a health and wellness coach. I am, like as Kelly said, I am a birth doula. I am a nurse by vocation. I am an author. I wear many, many hats, but at the end of the day, I am a health advocate. my mission and goal is to help women be their best selves, that physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, be your best self in all that encompasses. So in a way, with my clients who I serve at this time right now, I'm serving clients who are dealing with more gynecological issues, who are dealing with different things within their body, and coaching them through these things like miscarriages, and coaching through things like abortions and stillbirths, or the trauma of having a birth after having multiple miscarriages, or just dealing with different body conditions that are making being or identifying as a woman a little more difficult, right? So that's who I work with. But what do I mean as a health and wellness coach? It's such a catchy phrase, catchy word. A health and wellness coach is, we talk about way more than just your diet and go to the gym. It's way more than diet and going to the gym. So erase that from your mind right now if you think that that's what we're going to talk about. That's not what we're going to talk about. But in short, health is your state of being. I am healthy, I'm disease-free. Health is your state of being. Wellness is your way of living. And that's why I say I'm a health and wellness coach, because health is we want to get you in line with your health, but we also want to make sure that the way you are living is positive and great and purposeful and fruitful and lucrative and productive and sexy and provocative, all for you, right? So that encompasses all different kinds of things. That encompasses your emotions. That encompasses your stress, your sleep, anyone and anything that you encounter. It encompasses your anxiety, your relationships. And when we say relationships, we don't just mean your intimate relationships. It also means your family, your friends, your career, your professional relationships. How do all those things play into your stress and into your sleep and into all those other things? So everything that affects your overall health and wellness, because at the bottom line is that anything that stays unresolved in your body, or anything that stays, unresolved in your life, will manifest itself somehow in your body. It absolutely will. Bad relationships manifest themselves in your body. Being overworked and overtired manifests itself in your body. Being under extreme stress manifests itself in your body. Being in a state of confusion all the time, being indecisive, unable to make a decision, manifests in your body. And there's so many different ways and tools and research that has shown that these things come up in some way. And oftentimes it's maybe something else that we should have taken care of a little bit ahead of time. I should have got that blood sugar checked. I should have got that high blood pressure checked, but I didn't, because I didn't make that a priority for myself. And then in the midst of that, I started getting stressed out at work. So what did that do? Blood pressure goes through the roof, right? So all of those things. So what is your responsibility as a human being? What is your responsibility to your health and your wellness? That's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to talk about how you can partner with your healthcare providers, with your med squad, with these people that you hire, that you pay, that you give good insurance money to do the best thing. And I'm going to give you to do the best thing for you. But then also, what are some things that you can do to take ownership of your health and wellness? Because if it's one thing that 2020 taught us, is that health is your ultimate state of well-being. That health, if your health is under any constraint, if there is any moment where you think that where your health is in danger, that can immediately halt your entire universe. Just like the whole world came to a screeching halt the minute coronavirus came out into the world, is the same way that happens in your life. So that's things that we want to look at today. And again, as a nurse, I have seen more than my fair share of beautiful, purposeful, vibrant, amazing individuals, men and women, who have perished because they have not made their health, their state of living, a priority in their own life. And that's what we had to learn how to do in 2020. We had to learn how to do that. We had to learn, when the world stopped a year ago, literally like a year ago from today, when the world stopped, we had to figure out, what in the Sam Hill am I supposed to do? What in the hell? How am I supposed to run my business? How am I supposed to manage my children? How am I supposed to virtual school? What? I'm supposed to be the lunch lady and the teacher, and I'm supposed to work and be on a Zoom for 8 hours a day, and I have to do my own thing, and I'm not feeling too great, and I have this relationship with my partner, and how does that work? And now I have emotions that are rising up in me because I'm locked in the house all day, every day for weeks at a time. I can only go to Target and to the grocery store, and what else am I supposed to do? Because now I'm on lockdown, and you had nothing else to do but adjust, and your health and wellness was being adjusted, and we had to figure out how to do that. So because if we ignore these things, it's so important that we discuss this, because if we ignore these things, you leave the door wide open to not to perish, that sounds like such a bad word, but you leave the door wide open to have attacks against your own health and your well-being, your mind, your spirit, your energy, and your physical body. And it's so important. And I say that, and I share with you very quickly just a story about a very dear friend of mine. Had a very dear friend of mine who passed away early on at the age of 33. She had a lot of going on. There was financial stress. There was work stress. She was going back to school. She was paying for a home. There was relationship drama. There was all different things going on. And we, as friends, people were talking to her and saying, please, let us help. Let us help. Let us make yourself a priority. Go to the doctor. See what this is talking about. And she kept saying, I'll put it off. I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. Until one day she didn't show up for work. And when she didn't show up for work, what happened? Her mother got a phone call, and her mother had to go to her home. And when her mother got to her home, she found her on the side of the bed, dead, at 33 years old. A beautiful, vibrant, loving, amazing human being, gone in an instant. And I don't say that to scare you. I just say it as reality, that it can happen, that the world can mount up so much that we don't know what to do, that we don't know how to, and we don't make ourselves priority, that it can come back and stop us dead in our tracks. And sometimes we don't stop until it's too late, and there's nothing else that we can do. So what can you do? So here's some things that we can do. First of all, you have your healthcare team. You have your doctors, your nurses, your nutritionists, your therapist, your trainer, all these wonderful people, right, that you love and you have in your corner. Utilize these folks. Make them work for the money. Just like, listen, they're going to get paid. Make sure you are making them work for the money in these visits. But what's most important, if you don't take anything else from me today, is that when you are talking with your healthcare team and your providers, as much as they care for you, as much as they are doing what is best for, will do what is best for you, it is important for you to come to them with a spirit of honesty and transparency. So important. That's your job. Your job is to be open and honest and really, truly say what is going on. And as women and as individuals, who are identifying as women, we have to say, I don't feel good. I am tired. I am weary. I am happy. I am joyful. I'm amazing. I'm horny. I'm sexually deprived. I don't know tell what you are feeling. All right. Say it. Say the thing. I say to my clients all the time, fine is not an answer. You're not allowed to tell me you feel fine. The fine is a cop-out, and we all know it's a cop-out, right? Fine is a cop-out. Don't say you're fine. You can be anything but fine, and have them work and work through what's going on. So as you go through your day-to-day, and as you go through things that are happening with you, and you feel these aches and you feel these pains or you feel these stressors, we've been talking, so many women, our previous presenters were talking about what you feel in your heart, what you're feeling intuitively. All of that factors into your health and wellness. When you're feeling those rumblings in the pit of your stomach, when your heart hurts, when the tension in your back is so strong that you can't even rest your shoulders, when all those things are happening, what areas in my life need attention? Is it my job that's causing this? Is it a toxic relationship? Am I not giving myself enough self-care? What do I need to do? And just as Kendall shared with us earlier today about what makes your heart sing, when you find those things that make your heart sing, no to those things. This is something that's going really well. And this is something I want to continue doing because it's for my own health and wellness. My body appreciates this, right? So we want to do that and dig into those uncomfortable areas of your life, because I know it can seem very scary because there's the element of the unknown. What do? Oh no, I don't want to go to the doctor. I might get some crazy diagnosis. But would you rather go in and know and be able to create a plan to work towards a healing? Because I've seen people come back from amazing things to have healing. Or would you rather live in the unknown and perish? It seems like a no-brainer to me, but it can be very hard. And the thing is, you can always make money back. You can always make more product. You can always go back to school another time, but your family only gets one you. You only get one you. And if you're not good stewards, we're not good managers of this body that we have, my sisters, we're not going to be here to do this beautiful work. And we need you to be here to do the beautiful work, right? So some things that you need to do, all right? Examine the areas of your life. I'm gonna give you 7 quick steps and I'm out of here, right? So examine those areas of your life, your home, your career, your emotions, your spiritual space, your relationships. Are your spiritual practices working for you? Are your relationships healthy? Do you have boundaries in place? Are they fostering growth? Do you feel safe in your relationships? Do you feel toxic in your relationships? Those kinds of, even with your career, do I like where I am in my job? Do I want to work in a different department? Maybe do I need to be in a different team? Do you want to go for that promotion? What is it? Let's look at those things and what is examining and what do you feel? What is resonating in your body when you feel these things? So you're going to examine the areas of your life. 2, you're going to identify your needs for support. So who do you need? Pick your squad. Do you need to add some people onto your squad? Do you need to cut some people from your squad? If you have a doctor that's not listening to you, why are you here? There's 500 million bazillion other doctors. We can find somebody else. And that's what also I help my clients to do. We can find somebody else if they're not doing right by you, right? So look at that. Evaluate who else do you need? Do I need a therapist? Do I need a nutritionist? Do I need just an accountability partner? Do I need a girlfriend that I can call and say, hey girl, let me just tell you about my day. And she's just going to be my sounding board. And all she does is listen. Maybe that's what you need. Who do you need in your corner? A friend, a partner, anyone, a trainer. Who is it? Then number 3, get creative. Get creative. Y'all, this is so much more than saying, I'm going to go to the gym and get on the treadmill and I'm going to get on the elliptical and I'm going to stay here and I'm going to do the Stairmaster for 45 minutes. No, it's more than that. Take up a sport. Take up a new hobby. Maybe getting into if you're having trouble with weight loss, maybe it's not the physical reason you're having trouble with weight loss. Maybe it's psychological. Maybe you emotionally eat. Maybe you're eating because you want to block out some things that happened in your childhood. So there's nothing to do with you going to the gym, but it has everything to do with you releasing old baggage. Who knows, right? Get creative and see what's going on. There's more than just going to the gym and eating kale. My God, Jesus, right? So there's more than that. And then I want you to enlist your support. Get with those people, communicate your need, and let those people know that you need help and get creative with how you can use them. Case in point, and I'm out of here. I know I got 1 minute. Ready? Your HSA card. Golden. You want to know why? I know a woman who got a Peloton with her HSA card. Ask me how. I'll tell you about that. If you were my client, I can tell you. But anyway, but you can do these different things because if it's medically necessary for you, there's different ways for you to pay for different services. If it's medically necessary for you're stressed out beyond belief, you going to Massage Envy or Hand and Stone, wherever, you can use your HSA card for that. There's a lot of little life hacks and things, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of different things. Get creative so you can take advantage of different services. Check with your local hospitals, your local community centers to see what free things they may be offering, or your city, your district. They may be offering mental health services and things of that nature for you to be able to tap into. There's all kinds of resources and different support that you can enlist on this journey. Then be flexible, hon. Be flexible. Remember that this is going to vary. Things are going to change. Okay. So you may have to go back to this and say, hey, this didn't work for me. I'm going to try something else. That's okay. Just go back to the drawing board. All right. You may pick something that doesn't necessarily agree with your body. That's okay. You can go back and try something else. Maybe you need to invest more in yourself. Maybe you need to do a little less than what you're doing right now, right? Think about all these things. All these play a big part into your success. And maybe you want the Peloton, but you can't afford the Peloton. So you know that there's a gym going out of business. So you want to go and get an old bike for them and say, hey, are you selling your equipment? Oh, yes, they do those things. Anyway, then you're going to move forward with your plans, execute your plan, and always give yourself a chance to reevaluate. Come back to it and reevaluate it periodically, whether that's quarterly, monthly, semi-annually, whatever you feel is best for you. Come back to your plan and reevaluate it. Where am I now? What's my progress? What's working well for my life? How do I feel? How does my body feel? What are the results? Are my labs coming down? Is my doctor pleased? Am I pleased? Do I just look better in my clothes and I feel like, yes, I'm snatched and I'm good? Yes. Awesome. Use your own measuring. Make sure you have a measuring tool for this. All right. And again, the thing about all this with the pandemic is you got to get creative. That's the one thing we learned, is that your box gets pulled out from underneath you and you got to get creative. All right. So utilize all your apps, your virtual apps, your community groups, your Facebook groups. All those things are here to give you support so you can continue to be well and healthy during this pandemic season, which we hope is coming to a close shortly. But I know it's a lot of information, but I hope that it was helpful and encouraging to you. And I will let Kelly come on back so we can, yeah.
Oh, Danielle, you always give me life. Every time I hear you talk, I like feel rejuvenated. This is so good. Like, I'm pumped. I'm like, okay, health, wellness, let's do this now. Cool, everyone who's here with us, it's Q&A time. Put your questions in the chat. If you're watching in Facebook, put them in the comments. If you have a question you want to ask Danielle out loud, you can raise your hand if you're here on Zoom with us, and I can actually unmute you and you can ask Danielle yourself. So get your questions in there for Danielle. I do have a question for you to start us off, Danielle. Like, a lot of times we think, like, at least this, I can only really speak for myself about this, but I kind of do more like a triage approach to my health, where I'm like, I'm focused on like what's wrong with my health. And then when I'm actually feeling good, I kind of ignore my health. So what recommendations do you have to kind of stay consistent with focusing on your health, even in those times where things are like going smoothly in your health?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when you, as one of our other panelists talked earlier today, is when you're just doing your daily check with yourself, you know, how am I feeling today? And in keeping, a big part of my life is also like meditation and prayer and things like that. And that's also, meditation allows me to check in and quiet down and hear my body, feel my body. How do I feel? Do I feel loose and limber? And, you know, or am I all tight and stretched out? You know, is getting out of that position like, oh God, you know, to try to get up off the floor. So I think having a daily check, kind of, you know, whether that's through your prayer time or when you have your quiet time and you're in the shower and your things, you know, kind of checking in with yourself of, how do I really feel today? You know, and also, you know, thinking about it, when someone asks you, how are you doing? We already have an automatic response program. You're like, I'm good, I'm well. Sometimes it's a total lie, you know, but give yourself the 3 seconds to say, well, how am I today? Okay, how am I really feeling today? But when you are feeling great, it's staying inconsistent in those things that make you feel great. You know, I think, again, as Kendall talked earlier, it's about staying consistent in that practice. So as you feel great, sometimes we taper off, and then all of a sudden, then it's not until you realize, oh, my back is hurting again, oh, I should get back to stretching every morning, that you go, oh, okay. So it's maintaining those things that do make you feel really good and that are giving you the results you need, and staying consistent in that.
Yeah. And recognizing those things, like, oh, that's the secret sauce that actually helps me feel better.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, meditation was the answer to having sleep problems, was meditating at night. I realized that if I meditated at night before I went to bed, I was able to sleep peacefully through the night, because I was able to clear my mind. But in the nights I didn't, I'm tossing and turning and, you know, waking up angry and things like that, and like kicking the dog on the way out to bed, like, you know, but it's taking note of the things that really feel good.
Yeah. Yeah, taking that like survey, that check-in of yourself. for
Absolutely.
sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm curious for you personally here. Actually, let me check the Facebook, make sure there's no questions.
Mhm.
How has your like building a relationship with your health and wellness, how has that made you a better coach?
Oh, it's everything. Having to go through my own personal struggles. And you know what? I will quote the great B. Arthur from Golden Girl and from an episode of the Golden Girls. Okay. Um, she said one time in an episode to a doctor who mistreated her, right? There was an episode where she was very sick and no one could diagnose her. She had been from doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor, Dorothy, right? And then she went to this one doctor and he dismissed her. He just told her, "You're going through a midlife crisis, dye your hair, take up jazzercise," kind of thing. And she ran into him again later on at uh uh at a restaurant, and she said to him at one point, she said, I wish that doctors would all get very sick, and at one point that you would have to be the patient, because it would make you much more compassionate. And she's like, and even still, out of everything I've been through, I still wish you a better doctor than you were to me. And I remember seeing that when I was before nursing school and all that kind of thing, and then having my own struggles. And that was that same thing of like, when you've been on the other side of the table, you know what it's like. You know the fear of sitting there, waiting for results. You know the anxiety of the what if. And God forbid, don't go on WebMD, because you'll go from having a cut on your hand to having a lipoma and having to get your hand amputated in all of 5 minutes, right? And so it's like, don't WebMD yourself to death. But you know, me being sick, me having my own personal struggles makes me compassionate and gives me more substance to deal with my clients, because I can understand that silence of, you know, sitting there like, I don't know what to do. Or the confusion of, am I making the right decision? None of these really feel good, but this is what I have.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you're faced with a decision it's not what you want. You know, you want the ultimate cure all, but in this moment, these are the options that you have, and you have to figure out what to do.
Yeah. And that brings me back to your like, get creative about it too. Like if there's something
Correct.
missing, like how can we find a way to kind of support that thing that feels missing from
Absolutely.
the options on the table? Yeah.
Absolutely. And that made me also explore when I went through my own, and still, you know, go through my own personal health struggles. I got creative. I had to say, well, what's the holistic version of this? I don't want just antibiotics. Give me what are the other options? What are natural options for this? So I had to start doing my own research and my own study on different things, you know, Eastern medicine and things like that, to figure out what felt best for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had a patient, a colleague one time who she had stage 3 cancer at 30, not even 30 years old, but came back out of that, decided, now I'm not doing chemo, but went on a totally holistic, totally vegan, very raw, I mean, wheatgrass shots every other hour in her life. You know, it was a very intense kind of thing, but brought her body back out of cancer, because that was how she desired to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And she took it into her own hands and said, I'm going to do what I need to do.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
that's like sort of the magic of choosing what feels good to you in your health journey too,
Absolutely.
because like that might not work for somebody else, because somebody else might be like, this is nonsense. But for that individual where it really feels like this is the thing that's going
Mhm.
to help me the most, there's power to that. And like
Mhm.
that can actually help you through it when you find the thing that like just really feels good to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because you also have to have you have to believe it. If you don't believe your doctor is really doing the right thing for you, they could hand you the cure for cancer and you're not going to want to take it, because you don't trust them, and you don't believe in the process. You have to trust the process and trust what your body's leading you to do. You know, so
Totally.
it's very intuitive as well. As much as as much as we try to make everything very, very pro medicine, there's a very intuitive portion to that too. So that's what we try to do together with my clients, is fuse the two together and meet in the middle. So that way you feel like you're in a happy place. Or if that means one way or the other, we do that. But as long as the client can come to a happy medium of what they want.
Amazing.
Mhm.
Well, Perfect segue. If any of you want to connect with Danielle here, her information is in the workbook on page 12, specifically for Danielle. You can connect with her there. Also, if you're thinking, how do I do what Danielle does? How do I become a health and wellness coach? Take my struggles and help other people move through them themselves. Coach training, everybody. That's my recommendation for you. We are currently in enrollment for the next round of IGC coach training. So if you want to talk to Katie or Liv about that, I'm going to pop a link here into the Zoom chat. And you can book a call with Katie or Liv to see if that is the next best step for you to maybe step into something similar to what Danielle's doing, helping people with their health and wellness. Cool. We are going to take a couple-minute break. Thank you, Danielle, for being here and sharing your insight about health and wellness. I'm actually going to be leading the next talk at the top of the hour about using your intuition as a coach, my favorite topic of all time. So we'll take just a quick little 2-minute break. Everybody take a breather. And then come on back. I'll see you here in just a minute. Thanks, Danielle. All right, everyone, welcome back. Quick little break there. I am going to be leading this next talk about intuition, using your intuition as a coach, how to feel into it, and kind of recognize the way that your intuition is talking to you. So let's dive into this. The first thing I want to talk about with all of you is kind of the different wavelengths that your intuition can communicate with you on. And before I kind of break that apart, I do want to kind of put a blanket statement out here as well. My idea of intuition is kind of that, I'm going to use the phrase like sixth sense, that kind of universal nudge. We've been feeling into this in a lot of the talks leading up to this one today about like feeling into your heart and like seeing the signs that are around you and understanding what feels good to you. All of that stuff is your intuition talking to you. And this is actually the kind of stuff that I do in my one-on-one business. Not only am I the program director for Inner Glow Circle. In my own one-on-one coaching practice, I am an intuitive life coach. I help people identify how their intuition is speaking to them so that they can actually kind of use it in their life, their business, relationships, wherever they want to use it. So this is my viewpoint on this. Every single one of you watching here is an intuitive individual. You probably wouldn't be here interested in this stuff, this like self-development, being a coach. You probably wouldn't even be interested if you weren't intuitive. So all of you here, hello, intuitive people. You're very intuitive. It's just really about what way your intuition is wired, how your intuition is communicating with you. When I do my work with clients, the thing I hear the most often is, oh, that's my intuition? And I'm always like, yes, that's your intuition, because our intuition will nudge us in ways that we might not recognize as it actually being an intuition. And largely that happens because the way our intuition speaks to us feels so natural that sometimes we don't recognize those really natural things, those senses, those feelings, those nudges as something significant, because it's just so like normal, air quotes, for us as individuals. So let's talk about intuition and the most common ways that people sense their intuition. I like to call these intuitive wavelengths. That's probably the phrasing you're going to hear me use as I talk about this. So I break this down into 4 different wavelengths. All of you, every person on the planet is going to have some sort of combination of these wavelengths. Some are going to be a little stronger, some might be a little bit more soft, some, like all of them might be kind of loud, all of them might be kind of soft. There's no right or wrong, there's no better or worse. It's really just kind of like a thumbprint. No 2 intuitive wavelengths are the same. And so it's really just about identifying the ways in which you're wired. So one of let me just name the 4 ways to kind of give you a baseline here. The 4 ways you can sense your intuition are physically, in your physical body. It feels like a tingle, like a twinge, a warmth, an upset stomach. Kendall was going through some of these earlier about like the feelings we feel in our chest and our stomach. We might feel it physically, a headache sometimes, like things like this. We can sense our intuition physically. Another way we can sense our intuition is emotionally. Some people sense their intuition as an emotion, as a feeling, as happiness, as joy, as fear, as sadness, as the whole dang spectrum of human emotion. Some people feel their intuition and it's like translated as an emotion. Okay, so that is a valid way to sense your intuition. Another way to sense your intuition is mentally, kind of in your mind, in your head space, through like getting maybe like pictures or images in your mind's eye, getting thoughts, sometimes even hearing voices, things like that. Your intuition can be a very mental thing, dream state, like maybe in your dreams, you're getting a lot of intuitive information. Mentally is also another very valid way to receive intuitive information. And then the 4th way people tend to be wired intuitively is what I call more of a spiritual intuition, where the first 3 I just described, your physical, your emotional, your mental wavelengths, they're all kind of housed inside of our physical body here. The 4th one, the spiritual wavelength, is kind of everything that's happening outside of your physical self. Some people tap into their intuition kind of out here. And that's another wavelength that's very viable. Some of us, I'm a very physical, intuitive person. And so I get kind of trapped in my body and I forget sometimes that there's actually a lot of like intuitive things to be had outside of myself as well. So those are the 4 ways that your intuition is wired. And all of you are going to have some sort of combination of this. Your physical might be out front like me, where you're like, oh yeah, I feel that physical one all the time. And the other ones might maybe not so much, and like whatever combination. I would love to hear from you all who are watching in the chat. Like, let me know which ones of these wavelengths are resonating with you. Which ones do you think are kind of the loudest, have the strongest volume for you? Physical, emotional, mental, spiritual. How do you feel like you're wired when it comes to your intuition? So physical, yeah, me too. Physical and mental. Physical, yeah. Physical is a common one. Physical and emotional tend to be the two most common that I've seen in my experience doing this work. And then mental and spirituals tends to be the most rare. But yeah, feel into it. And here's the thing, like whatever is kind of landing with you, trust it. Because there's probably a reason why you're like resonating with some of those wavelengths more than others. It probably means you're kind of wired in that way. Wink, wink. Knowings, yeah, knowings can be kind of a mental thing. Like I just know things and I'm not sure why I know them. Sometimes that shows up too as like, maybe somebody's giving you news that's supposed to be like new information. And when they tell you this new information, it kind of lands like, well, yeah, like I knew that in a weird way. It can land like that too. Physical when something's met. Yeah, that's a really interesting like caveat there, Simone. Like different stimulus can also sort of tap into these different wavelengths in different ways. So you might feel more of an emotional thing under certain circumstances, or more of a physical thing under other circumstances, etc. Okay, so this is great. I love that this is resonating with you all. In the coaching world, when you're being a coach, I want to bring it back around to that. Like, how do you put this to action when you're actually coaching someone? And here's the thing, the International Coach Federation, the ICF for short, which is the governing body of the coaching industry, actually includes intuition as part of the coaching skills, of the core competencies, is what the ICF calls this specifically. They actually like name intuition, they encourage you to use it. And in my opinion, every great coach is using their intuition. It's very much part of like being able to feel your clients, to hear what they're not saying, to notice patterns that they're like kind of not noticing in their own life. This is a very intuitive thing to do, a very intuitive skill to lean on when you're being a coach. So here's my recommendations. I have a couple tips on how to actually like lean into your intuition while you're coaching someone. First, like actually tell the client what you're feeling in the moment. So for example, like if I hear a client say, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to put this thing into action, I can't wait. And I'm over here and I'm like getting butterflies in my stomach and excitement for them, or I'm feeling the joy in my heart, or I'm picturing in my mind them like leaping off a cliff and soaring into the air, or whatever it is, say it to them. Oh my gosh, Sally Sue, I literally am feeling like butterflies of excitement in my stomach for you when I hear you say that. Reflect back these types of senses and feelings that you're getting from when your client is talking. It's really important. And it allows your clients this like very interesting gift to feel heard on a deeper level. Anybody can listen to like your clients' words. Anybody can hear the words coming out of, not anybody, I realize that's not necessarily a universal thing, but it's common for people to be able to hear the words coming out of someone else's mouth. But if I have someone telling me that they actually like feel my excitement in some way when I'm sharing that feels like a deeper acknowledgement when you're hearing that, like, oh my gosh, they actually feel me and are with me and are present with me. So it's very important. If you get a little twinge or a nudge or a vision about your client, say something. Say it in the moment. Reflect what you're feeling intuitively. Also, here's another thing. Really lean into the random stuff that comes your way when you're coaching a client. There's magic in that randomness. Sometimes when I'm coaching someone, I get like a thought or a question or something that seems just a little off topic. Trust it. Ask about that thing. And I like to kind of give a little disclaimer before, if I feel like I'm taking a little bit of a leap to something the client's not exactly talking about directly. I might disclaimer by saying something like, you know, I could be off here, but ... Like, what does this other thing have to do with this? Or where is this a pattern in your life? Or what does this have to do with this thing we talked about before? If you're kind of, if stuff's coming up for you that the client's not directly talking about, bring it up. Bring it up. When I started taking that leap as a coach myself, like taking more like risks, I suppose, as a coach with my intuition, like the client didn't bring up this thing at all, but I feel like it's nudging at me and I say it anyway. Woo, a lot of times that like breaks the conversation open and it just gets so much deeper. And had I kept that to myself, we might not have gone there. So like the point of this is when you're working with your clients, like trust those twinges, those nudges, those actual feelings or like sensations that you're receiving when you're listening to your client. Of course, the secret sauce here is actually being present with your client. I can't be over here on the side, like taking my grocery list while the client's talking. And then I'm like, oh, that's a random thought. No, I'm not actually connecting with my client, but if I'm present with them and stuff comes up, trust it, say it, take that risk and ask about that random thing that's coming into your head. I've never seen it derail a conversation with a client. In fact, if you're off base, the client's gonna like steer you. The client's gonna go, well, it might not be that, but something over here, and it's going to keep the conversation going. Now, that's like my tips for you when you're actually working with a client. I also have a couple tips here when it comes to just being a business owner, running your business, because that has a kind of a different energy than when you're actually like doing work with a client. One of my favorite things to do, this is a little bit more out there, so come along for the ride with me, but one of my favorite tips that can render a lot of interesting, intuitive information is having like intuitive office hours, is what I call it for myself. I set aside time each week where I am intentionally tapping into my intuition and I'm asking myself, what do I need to do in my business? For me personally, I like relationships with spirit guides. I have grandparents who I consider spirit guides. I have like a couple archangels that like to hang out with me and some other figures that I lean on in my own like intuitive practice. And so I actually like vision them in my head, like we're at a board meeting that we're sitting around a table and I'm asking them like, what's our plan for this next quarter? What are we going to focus on this week? How can I really best serve my clients? I'm asking my spiritual guide team here, what's what? And then I just have to like absorb and listen to what I receive and trust it. Trust it. Sometimes I've taken interesting turns in my business or like gotten really cool new ideas from doing these types of office hours. And you know what? It becomes sort of like a fun playground experiment. Like if I'm like, ooh, that's a cool new idea. Let me go try it out and just see what happens. You might surprise yourself with what comes forward when you're just actually taking the time to intentionally tap into your intuition and feel into those 4 areas. Like when I do my office hours, I check in physically, I check in emotionally, I check in mentally, I check in spiritually, and just see what comes forward for me and how that applies to what I'm up to in my business and with my clients. So that's that. Like, and I encourage you all to just start checking in with these 4 wavelengths in your day-to-day life. How you're wired is going to show up a lot. Like it can show up when you're getting checked out at the grocery store, for example. Like trust those nudges, take those moments to like, ooh, I'm feeling a shift in my emotion. Like, let me check in. Like, is this intuitive? Am I feeling something going on around me in my environment? Or am I just, is my mood shifting? Who knows? But check in with these 4 wavelengths throughout your day-to-day life. And then when you get into these moments of like actively trying to use it with a client or actively trying to like put it into action in your business, you've already flexed that muscle. It's like flexing muscle. The more you do it just kind of through your life, through your day-to-day, the easier it's going to be to put into action when you're actually like, now's the time, let's do this. Magic. Cool. That's my talk for you all. I see a question already in here in the chat, but we're in our Q&A. So put any questions you have in the chat. If you're watching on Facebook, you can put them there. Please be a little patient with me because I am clicking between all the places. I don't want to miss any questions. If you have a question you want to ask me verbally, you can also raise your hand if you're here in Zoom, and I can unmute you and you can just ask away. But let's go to this question from Danielle. What can you do to understand your feelings? What if I'm feeling something with a client, but I'm not sure how to interpret it? So one thing I like to do if I'm sensing something, like let's use emotionally, for example, because that's kind of sounds like what you're referring to there in your question, Danielle. Like, let's say I'm suddenly feeling like a shift of like nervousness or something emotionally. And I'm like, ooh, what's that about? Am I just like feeling my client's nervousness? Am I just suddenly nervous about something? Like what's going on? A lot of times what I will do is sort of default to another wavelength. So like emotionally, like, ooh, I'm feeling nervousness. What does this mean? I'm not sure. Let me ask my body what it feels. Or let me ask my like mental space what it has to say. Or let me reach even out of my body. Let's get out of my body all together. I'm going to feel out here and see what it has to say. Sometimes those other wavelengths will like confirm what you're feeling. They'll like give you more information that makes it more clear. That's really my go-to method is if I have uncertainty about something I'm receiving or sensing in one of those wavelengths, I jump to another one. Let me check in with another one. What do you have to say about it, body? Oh, I'm just nervous. Okay, great. I can move on. Or, my body might tell me that it's my client. Like, however you're sensing it, trust. That's really, your intuition is going to communicate with you in kind of like illogical ways is the phrasing that's coming to me in this moment. Like, not all of it's going to make sense. Okay. It's just about following those little threads or those little breadcrumbs that your intuition is putting out there for you. Does that answer your question, Danielle? It's my favorite method. Awesome. What other questions do you have for me? Lay them out there. I will say here, I'm looking at I wrote down some common questions people ask me about this. Another thing I like to just note here too is you have the ability to like strengthen any of these wavelengths you desire as well. So like, let's say you're like, oh, I really want to like be really a solid spiritual intuitive. I want to get out of my body and I want to tap in out here and expand myself. Great. The cool thing about intuition is it's very intention based. That was more of a mouthful than I intended. If you sort of like intuitively desire to do something, it's kind of like, and so it is, honestly. Or if you desire to have a certain question answered, so it will be. Start paying attention to those signs. Sometimes I like to play a game with my intuition, and I will actually like give my intuition sort of like assignments, for lack of a better way to describe it. Like I will be like, okay, I'm confused in my business. I'm thinking about starting up this, like maybe a new wing of my coaching business. I'm not sure. It'd be like kind of a stretch for me. I'm not sure if anybody's interested. What do I do about that? Well, here's the thing. It's kind of ask for a specific sign is what it boils down to. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, universe, my guides, intuition, God, whoever, spirit you want to like put the call out to, say, send me a sign. whenever I am on the right path, send me a blue bear. I'm picking something random in the moment. And actually say it out loud. I call this like have a talk to the wall moment, like where you're literally just talking out loud to the wall. Okay, universe, send me a blue bear when I'm on the right path. Sure enough, if you like set that intention, don't be surprised when a blue bear like randomly appears on a billboard as you're like sitting in traffic going to the job you hate or something, like, and you're thinking about how I want to quit my job or something. There's a blue bear. Don't ignore that stuff. That is like a very clear sign. So ask for what you're looking for too. That can be really, really helpful to set like specific signals, or maybe it's a feeling that you get, this one unique feeling, like when I'm on the right path, I want to recognize it. Or like, I want to know when I'm like in a healthy relationship, I want to feel a certain way. And then it, like when you feel that feeling, you're like, oh, that's my indicator that I'm like, this is healthy. Let's see, we got some questions coming in. What about differing between intuition and fear? Whew. Yeah, here's the thing, like there's an interesting, some of those sensations that you feel intuitively, it's like there's a fine line between like fear and excitement. Sometimes like the butterflies on my stomach, I'm like, wait, is that excitement or is that like I'm scared or nervous? Those nudges can be similar. So this is also where I like, this is my method. I kind of default to another wavelength, right? Like if I'm emotionally feeling fear is an emotion. Let me default to the spiritual thing and see what it has to say. Let me default to my physical body. Maybe my physical body is suddenly like feeling like it's going to do a song and a dance. Like that's telling me, ooh, maybe this is more intuitive. Here's the thing about intuition too, and what I've found. Intuition is far, far, far more likely to try to steer you towards something that's actually like in alignment with you than try to be like red flags or warnings. Usually, this is a broad brush I'm painting, so there's nuance here, but often our intuition is going to steer us towards the things that are best for us. So that can also help eliminate the fear. If I'm choosing to trust my intuition, I'm trusting that like this nudge that I'm getting is actually like the way to follow. Simone, does that help? Let me see this other question here from Daniel. How do you handle a client that is in denial about what is happening? Ooh, yeah. For me, I just leave it, honestly, to be really just like direct about that response. People aren't going to, it's just like with anything, people are only like able to see as far as they're like willing to go, kind of like in that regard. So just like as, you know, as coaches, as we do, we can certainly stand for people about what's possible and what we see as possible for them and hold them in their greatest possibility and all that great stuff. However, even if intuitively we're like, I know what's what, that doesn't mean the client is there, right? So just like any other like coaching things, we can hold up that mirror, we can encourage, we can like show possibility and options, but we have to then trust our clients to choose what's best for them. Plus, like, we might not be purely feeling the client. We've got our own stuff that's like mixed in with our intuitive stuff. So the client's going to know best. Their intuition is going to know best. So it's also like intuitively trust what other people are choosing for themselves in the moment too, as well, Danielle. Are my thoughts. Let me check Facebook here. Oh, well, thanks, Simone. I think you're awesome too. Cool. That is my spiel about intuition. I encourage you all to just like go put your literally like your feelers out there as you're living the rest of your day and see what comes up for you with these 4 wavelengths and see if that brings any more clarity about how your intuition happens to be wired. If you want to get a hold of me about intuitive stuff, my information, my personal information is in the workbook on page 13. If you're wondering how you do stuff like me, my background's very diverse, but I landed here in the coaching world for very, very many reasons. And so if you're curious, like you want to kind of become an intuitive coach yourself or explore this even more, Coach training is a solid path for people who are doing intuitive type work and really give some like credibility and legitimacy behind your work. So now we're in enrollment for coach training. 'Tis the season for coach training. So I'm going to pop a link here in the Zoom chat for all of you who are here on Zoom. You can book a call with Katie or Liv to talk about coach training. It starts on the 31st of this month. So we are in the last couple of weeks of enrollment. If your intuition, check in with your intuition about this. Like, is coach training the next best step for me? And then trust what comes forward. It was a big leap for me to go down this road, and I just had to trust. And I'm like, just like Charisma was saying earlier, like, whew, I'm glad it turned out this particular way. So check it out, book a call with Katie or Liv, and you can talk about coach training. So let's take another quick break. We've got up next, who is next? Roselle, yay. Roselle Caballas is gonna talk about growing an organic social media fan base. So we're gonna kind of think back into marketing social media presence in a couple minutes here. So let's take a quick break, and I will see you back here at 4:30 Eastern. And we're back. Awesome. We have Roselle here, the lovely Roselle. Roselle is going to talk to you all about growing an organic social media fan base. She is a visibility and soul marketing coach. So this is her specialty. And I am so excited to hear what you have to say, Roselle. So I'm going to hand the mic over to you and let you take it away.
Okay. Hey, everyone. So yeah, I'm an online marketing coach. And just to give some about my story. So in 2018, I was like at this low point in my life. I was about to flunk out of college. I was working a toxic job, and I always knew I wanted to create some sort of income that had like freedom and flexibility. I decided to start an online business, and I knew nothing about marketing. I didn't have an audience. I didn't have money for ads. So I decided to learn about the world of social media. And at that point, I actually discovered I was pretty good at it. And I grew a Pinterest account past like 14,000 followers in like 4 months. And then that gave me the confidence to start creating YouTube videos and begin creating a blog. And then I had videos that went viral, and then people started asking how to work with me. And then I began doing social media management, consulting. And since then, I've had clients who have like gone viral. I have clients that began collaborating with influencers who've gotten their books published in like some crazy places. So not only is social media like this great tool that's been able to move the needle in my business and other people's business that I've been able to work with, but it's been this powerful, like, free tool, this powerful free vehicle to get my message across to other people, to have my story be heard, and to give a purpose into everything that I've ever been through. And so this is why it's something that I focus on, that I help my clients with. And today I'm going to talk with you about like a few tips, a few strategic things that you can focus on to start growing your social media. But what I really want to emphasize is that the being behind um, creating your content and getting your message out there is so much more important than any of the strategy. The reason why is because I once knew nothing about strategy, and I still had like all this content that went viral, but it's because I was putting my message out there. I was being authentic, and I was telling a story that a lot of people needed to hear, but they weren't hearing. And that's why some of my stuff performed so well, and why some of my clients stuff have performed so well as well. So the truth is, like, there's a bunch of strategy you can follow, but the truth is, in order to grow your following, you actually have to make great content. There's no like way to guarantee going viral. There's no guarantee in how to grow your audience. But if you make great content, then you will grow your audience. And so that comes from the being. Are you being a person who says what you want to say? Are you being a person who's intentional about who you speak to, what stories you're telling, what emotions you create when you share your stuff? When we share things that are unfiltered, that are inspiring, that are educational, that make people laugh, that say something about our values that like we all secretly feel inside, um, that is when there's this emotional charge in the content and people begin sharing it. It starts like going crazy, and then your like audience begins to grow. So if you're showing up from a place to serve, to educate, to inspire, to connect, the growth becomes inevitable. And lastly, in terms of being, like, are you showing up as someone that's having fun? Who's focused on the impact of your message, who's focused on like the impact of sharing your story, of putting certain ideas or thoughts or beliefs out there. Um, or are you or sorry. And so once I started to do that, like the strategy became like really really easy. And when I started focusing on my being and the effect and the impact, my social media began to grow. So with that being said, I want to share with you some top tips. So keep in mind that like every social media platform, they're going to have different rules. But for the sake of this conversation today, I'm going to focus on Instagram because that's like a very popular platform that most people always want to learn about. But some of these foundational principles can be applied to other platforms. Just make sure to do your research. So number one is leverage the different platforms within the platform. What does that mean? So on Instagram, there's stories, there's reels, there's live video, there's IGTV, there's carousel posts. Every time a platform releases a new feature, Instagram wants you to use that feature. And so what that means is if you begin to use these different like platforms within the platform, Instagram will begin to show your content to more people. It will prioritize your live video over your simple like image post. So I want you to begin to like play around with like different ways you can use the platform you're already using. Number two is to have some sort of niche topic or niche audience, or something that you're really passionate about and that you can consistently show up for. The reason why is because if there's no consistency in who you're speaking to, what you're sharing, it's going to be really hard for your audience to have a reason to like stick around and follow you. It's going to be really hard for the platform to, you know, begin to suggest your content to other people. So in my like experience, those that can be really specific and niche about what it is that their whole like profile is about, they will do really well. Number three, so you want to optimize your profiles for success. On different platforms, this can mean different things. On Instagram, this looks like, you know, setting up your bio with the correct like keywords and topics that you talk about. It can look like using certain keywords in your description. So for example, if you're a wellness coach, you might want to put wellness tips, things that people are searching in your captions and in different places. It also looks like leveraging hashtags. Hashtag strategy is like an entire thing that we can go super deep into. But if you're not using hashtags, I want you to start using hashtags because they do matter. And with Instagram, you can actually use up to 30 hashtags. The types of hashtags you should be using should be relative to your topic, to your industry, to your audience, even your location. Um, and in even your location. What are you learning from, Roselle, in terms of hashtags? So yeah, so hashtags are important. And also hashtags also give the algorithm clues about what your content is about. So if they're consistently seeing like, oh, I see wellness coach, wellness tips, wellness this, all over your profile, they're going to show your content to people who are searching for wellness, like wellness topics. Okay. So another thing is to collaborate with other people. Share the mic, share your audience. That can look like interviewing other people on live, but it can also look like sharing other people's content in your stories and tagging them. I do this all the time, without the intention to get the other person to shout me out back. But if you do this, they typically will. And that will give more eyes and visibility on your profile. And you'll be surprised about like the followers that start coming to you. Number 5. So you want to create like valuable content that is either shareable or savable. I talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but that can look like infographics are really popular because you know, there's something that people want to save and look at later. Something that's inspiring, something that people want to share. And the most viral content creates, again, some sort of emotional charge because you're either saying something that really resonates with someone's beliefs, or you're saying something that everybody's thinking, but they don't like want to say themselves. And so they will see that as something that resonates with their own values, with their own beliefs, with their own identity, and they'll share it. Like I know some of you are out there resharing different quotes and for whatever reason, different reels, different TikToks. And there's a reason why you're sharing it because you relate to it. You relate to it on a deeper level and you feel like, oh my gosh, like they get me. That's the kind of content that is valuable, that is viral, that is shareable. Number 6. So number 6 is to be consistent. And being consistent doesn't mean that you have to post 4 times a day, every single day. Being consistent doesn't mean you have to post like every single day of the week. Being consistent can look different for everybody. But the importance of consistency is not only for the algorithm to like, you know that you're a profile that is, you know, consistently showing up, that is like, you know, creating some of an experience for their users, but it also shows your audience, your community, that you show up for them and they will begin to trust you. It's a very like subconscious thing, but if they know that you're going to keep showing up, that you're going to keep talking about the same topic, that you're going to keep you know, sharing the stories that they want to hear, they're going to build this like deeper connection with you, and they'll start sharing your content. They'll start referring people to follow you. They'll start like your community will grow your community. Your audience will grow your audience. So I want you to really, like, even if you only, like, I don't care if you have 30 followers, 100 followers, 500 followers, like, none of those people have to follow you, but they all follow you for a reason, and each one of them matters. And when you show up for those people, they will show up for you as well. And I really want you to, like, remember that. So number 8 is to get inspired by others on social media. This is like a whole nother strategy in itself. But if there are like other competitors in your industry, other profiles that have such a like large following, you can look at what they're doing that is doing really well. Like what's getting the most likes, what's getting the most saves. And like there's a reason why. And it can be as simple as like what they're talking about. And it could also be as simple as how it looks. For example, Boss Babe is a very, very huge Instagram account for women entrepreneurs. And what they do is they just take a bunch of quotes that are already being shared and like doing super well in other platforms, and they literally reshare the same content that they know their audience also needs to hear. The only thing when you do this though is to be very careful about comparing yourself, to be very careful about, you know, wanting to be exactly like somebody else, to be careful also about like copying and not giving credit. You always want to give credit. But if you're not sure where to start in terms of creating like content that is viral, that is going to perform well and grow your audience, you can always look to others for inspiration. Another great example of that is like if you want to start using Instagram Reels, like follow trends. You'll notice like the same types of videos keep popping up. There's a reason why. So you can use that as inspiration. So those are like my best tips and like strategies and just like things that you should follow. Okay, like best practices. There you go. But what I really want you to walk away with today is I really want all of you to feel like more confident in sharing your message, whatever that message may be, and to trust that the growth will be inevitable. If you follow some of like, even if you take one thing from this talk today and you implement that, but at the front of what you do, at the core of what you do actually, is just to have fun and to understand that like your message, you showing up makes a difference, the growth is going to follow. So yeah.
Amazing. Russell, I feel like, yeah, you could do like a whole separate class on each one of those talks because they're so juicy, like hashtags alone and like collaboration and what that can look like. So informative. So informative. Everybody watching, Q&A time. What questions do you have for Roselle? Put them in the chat. If you're watching on Facebook, put them in the comments. If you are watching on Zoom, you can also raise your hand and I can unmute you and you can ask Roselle verbally if you have a question there. While we're waiting for those questions to pop up, Roselle, I do have a question for you myself. And it kind of boils back to your consistency point, like consistency. How do you know like what is the consistency pace for you when it comes to being consistent on social media?
That's a great question. So that's such a good question. I always say like start small and then build from there. Because even if you like decide to grow straight out the gate, like I'm going to post every single day, you're not going to know if that fits with your lifestyle, if you can even commit with that. And then you don't even know if it's actually doing anything for you. So I always say like 3 to 4 times a week. That's a good like place to start. And then like build from there. Yeah.
Awesome. Here's a question from Simone. Are there any apps that can help organize your posts and auto post them?
Yeah, there's so many. So my favorite one for posting is Later for Instagram. They also connect to Facebook, Twitter, I think, and maybe LinkedIn. So Later's my favorite. Yeah.
Great. let technology help. Yeah. We also have a question here from Laura. Newbie here, about what percentage of your coaching clients come from social media versus other platforms such as client coach referrals, etc.? Great question.
So actually all my clients come from social media. Okay, maybe like 1% comes from word of mouth. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think you got a referral earlier this week, if I'm like not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Like on rare occasions, but I only do social media. Yeah.
Like 95% probably.
Yeah.
What other questions do you have, everybody? Lay them on Roselle. Oh, I've got to see a hand raised. Kendall, what do you got for us?
Roselle, do you recommend 30 hashtags?
Yes. So
Okay.
that's a maximum that you can use. So definitely always use 30 hashtags, but you need to be intentional about what hashtags those are, the size of them. The reason why is because like if you'll use like smaller hashtags, what I mean by that is like only a few people are following them or only a few people are like in that posts are in that hashtag. But if you post something that does really well, those other hashtags could bump your content to like wider audience. So each hashtag is a new opportunity to like be viewed by other people. That's how I look at it.
Mm-hmm. I didn't realize this until like probably like shamefully recently, but I didn't realize you could follow hashtags on Instagram, and that really opened my eyes too about which hashtags actually like show up in my feed and which ones are being followed. So keep that in mind too. If you're curious, you can follow hashtags too and see what kind of traction they give you on your feed as well. What else you got, everybody? Let me check Facebook here, see if there's any questions. Let's see, I've got more questions for you. What do you do, Roselle? Like almost personally, I'm asking you like as an individual, what do you do on those days where you don't feel like showing up online and like sharing and posting, but you know you should, air quotes, right? Like what do you do on those days you just don't feel like it?
Yeah, so if I like should because there's some sort of reason why, you just have to ground into your purpose and what this means beyond you and what like sharing certain things means for other people. On a more like doing side of things, like there's ways to make that easy. Like I made writing a practice for myself, so I have like a bunch of notes and content just saved in my phone, and I can just take something when I don't have anything coming to me like today and just like repost it. Or you could post something you've already posted before, like there's nothing wrong with that. Or I just share something that I like from other people. So but at the end of the day, it just comes into being grounded in what does this mean for others beyond just me. What does this mean? What becomes possible when I talk about this?
Use your app, Kelly. Thanks so much. Yeah, get that app in action, right? Set yourself up so you don't have to think about it. Yeah, totally. And I think that's a really helpful like place to like get inspiration from. If you have like a content bank is like the wording I always think about, like a pool of things I can pull from when I don't feel like it, that can really be helpful to kind of either spark something that you do want to share or, you know, be a quick little response when you don't feel like putting in a lot of effort on your share. Yeah. Oh, here's a good question from Kendall. When you credit others content, do you hashtag or at their name or business?
I just add their name, their profile, so that they get tagged in it, and then they'll get a notification and they'll know that, you know, I shared it. And the people following me who are seeing it can go see where it actually came from too. Yeah.
Yeah. What apps do you like to make your content more visually appealing? What apps do
Oh
you
my
like
gosh.
to make your content more visually appealing?
I have a whole like reel on this on my Instagram. But so my favorite apps, like for filters and whatnot, Adobe Lightroom for like editing videos in shot for like doodling and like making collages. There's an app called Bazaar Art, and there's another one called A Design Kit. So those are my favorite.
Great. Another common one too that a lot of coaches use is Canva.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
It's a good solid one that you can create a lot of different types of content imagery on, and it's free. Yeah. Awesome. Let me check Facebook, see if we got any questions in there. No questions in there. Any final questions from the audience? Please put them up now. If you want to get a hold of Roselle and connect with her, you can see her contact information in the Limitless workbook. She's on page 14 specifically, so you can connect with her and go see her Insta and watch that reel about all her tips and tricks. Watch her reels. And if any of you are curious, like, how do I do what Roselle does? How do I help people with social media? How do I become a coach and do this type of work? Coach training. That's my like suggestion for all of you. Roselle's a graduate of IGC coach training, just like everybody else here that you're listening to today. So we are in enrollment time for our next round of coach training. It starts the 31st. There is a discounted rate for all of you attendees here. So I'm going to pop in the Zoom chat. There's a link. You can book a call, talk to Katie or Liv, and see if coach training is the next best step for you, because we dive into some of this stuff in coach training too. We like to make sure you're feeling good about not only being a coach, but how to actually put yourself out there to get hired as being a coach. So we cover all that type of stuff in coach training. So book a call. We're at another break. Thank you, Roselle, for sharing your insight, all your know-how on the social media fan base, growing that audience organically. And cool, let's take a 5-minute break. When we come back, we're going to be with Sam Sinet. Sam is a licensed social worker and is going to talk about how to tell if you need a career pivot, just a little shift in your career, or if you need like a career overhaul, how to tell which path might be best for you at any given moment in time. So let's come back here. I'll see you in 5 minutes with Sam. And thanks again, Roselle. Hello, hello, welcome back. As you can see, we have the wonderful Sam Sinet here, licensed social worker, certified life coach, amongst other things. And Sam's going to talk to us about how to tell the difference if you need a little pivot in your career or if you're needing a whole full-blown overhaul in your career, because might be one or the other, might be a mixture of both, but we'll find out from Sam. So Sam, I'm going to pass the mic over to you, let you take it away.
Awesome. Yay. So excited to do this. So excited to be here with you all. Yeah, I'll introduce myself just a little bit more. My name is Sam Sinet, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker here in the state of Texas, which means I'm independently licensed to diagnose and treat people with a variety of mental health disorders. I can stand alone and do that with no supervision. And yeah, I'm also a certified life and confidence coach. As of the last year, which has been such an exciting, for me, pivot to make in my life and in my career. And, but it wasn't an easy decision at all. This time last year, this month, 1 year ago, I felt like I was in a quarter life crisis. That's what I told my mom when I called her on the phone. I was like, I'm in a quarter life crisis. I have this degree, I have this career that I love. I love being a social worker, and I love what I do full time, but there was stuff missing, y'all. Like, there was just something that, in the morning, it was just hard for me to like get out of bed and feel motivated to fully show up in my full-time career that I had devoted 7 years of schooling to, hundreds of hours of training to. I told my mom I was in a quarter life crisis and I needed to figure it out. So just to start off, I know like some of us are just popping in this event. Some of us have been here all day, but many of you, I'm assuming you're in some type of full-time career, or you're juggling, you are a hustler and you have several different side things going on. You're an entrepreneur already, or you're a coach, but you're juggling a lot. So I just want us to take a moment and just like, let's just put our hands on our hearts for a second, and let's just take maybe 2 breaths and center ourselves in. Okay, so okay, because we're going to be talking about a big decision today, and making a big decision about like your career, pivoting or having a complete overhaul is huge. And this is how I started. Like, I thought about when I get up in the morning a year ago and I was starting my workday, how did I feel? So that's what I want you to ask yourself if you're trying to figure this out. When you wake up in the morning, right now, today, when you woke up and you started, how did you feel today? And just allow whatever comes up to be there. Just let it be there. It's okay. If it's not the thoughts in your mind or the emotions that are coming up for you aren't your favorite, it's okay. Just let them be there. Because for me, acknowledging the not so great thoughts and feelings I was having towards my full-time career was what I had to do in order to gain more clarity around the decision that I was making. And that was for me to launch a coaching business. And I think that you have to start with like getting honest with yourself. Are you someone that's just, you have a really great work ethic and you were raised in a family that just taught you, like if you work hard, all of your dreams are going to come true. And if you stay the course and maybe you graduate high school, you go to college, you get the advanced degrees, like you're going to be golden. What was your upbringing around work and work ethic, and how is that impacting you today? And what kind of the situation that you're in now, what kind of feelings come up around that? If they are difficult and they are something that you are thinking about all the time, and you are getting to the end of your day and kind of dreading going to bed because you know that restarts the cycle of your workday over in just a few hours, then this is a pause that I really would encourage you to make, pivot or overhaul. For me, last year when I was contemplating, coach training with IGC, but also just in creating a business, there were so many competing interests that I was taking into account. At the time, I was actually transitioning into a promotion in my in my full-time career as a clinical social worker. I had gotten a promotion, and usually when you get a promotion, you should feel happy and excited about that, right? Like more money and supposed to be more like more independence and things like that. Not always, but I was in the middle of a promotion, and I was really having a hard time with understanding why I was so unhappy, even though I was, getting moved up. So I was wrestling with that competing interest. I had a promotion, and my duties were about to shift. There was also an emerging pandemic. Don't know if you've heard about it, but we were like really like things were getting really serious with the pandemic, and I knew as a mental health professional, like I was going to be really needed. And I felt sort of like for me, it was a moral obligation to show up in that space for people that I didn't even know yet, but I knew were going to need me. Finances, have some student loans, have some other loans that I was working on and really committed to. And for me, the thought of, making another investment of any sort, not just money, but time, space, all of that, all of the aspects of an investment, that was a competing interest. Do I have the mental capacity? Do I have the time? Do I have the energy? Can I create the money? Those were my competing interests. And then the other part of my contemplation was fear. And it wasn't until I spoke with a coach myself, in like a consultation fashion, that I realized that I had so much fear around stepping outside of the lane that I had already chosen for my life. I had fear of judgment from my colleagues in the field. I had fear that people weren't going to take me seriously, that people were going to see me as a dabbler, just doing all these random things and not really committing to one. That was the story that I was telling myself. That was the lens I was sort of seeing this through. A fear of making an investment at the wrong time. And not being able to find clients online, knowing that if I was going to start my business during pandemic and social distancing had happened, knowing that I was going to have to do this online. And if you can't tell in the way that I talk, I'm an extrovert. Like I love doing stuff like this. I love it. And the thought of having to do this online and not get to see people in person when that was what I was used to, like there was just so much fear for me that was coming up. But then, I started to ask myself, like, okay, I don't feel pulled to just up and quit my job. Like, even though there were aspects of it that I didn't enjoy, I didn't feel like I needed to pull the plug completely. And I was trying to figure out what was keeping me showing up, what was keeping me, showing up to my appointments and not taking a bunch of sick time and things like that. And I realized that after actually talking to Katie DePaula, CEO of IGC, I realized that it was when I got to see the moment that someone made a decision to change their life, that was what was driving me. Like that's what was making me show up to my full-time job as a therapist. And for me, I work with the military. So it was like the moment I got to see this person who, was struggling with this thing for a decade or whatever, the moment I got to see them like draw a line in the sand and make a change, that was like, that little tiny moment was like all I needed to keep me going for another month. And so I thought to myself, like, what would it look like to have more of these moments in my career? So for you, like, ask yourself, what is the thing right now that is keeping you getting up in the morning? Like what is the little tiny seed of desire for your future or hope for your future, or even enjoyment you do get out of your current career? Like, what is that thing? Because for me, I realized like, I want more of that. I want more of that a lot faster. I don't want to have to wait for a system to work its magic to put that person in front of me. I want to go out and find that person myself. And I want to create those moments for myself. So then once I kind of I had that question come up and I had that realization on that call with Katie, that's when I started to say to myself, like, I'm making this decision. And for me, like, I just felt like there was unfinished business in my career. Like, I'm still doing it. So the reason that I'm presenting at a later time in the afternoon is because I just worked a full day. But look at how like energized and excited I am, because I'm doing things that I love. And at the time when I was making this decision to either quit or pivot, I just felt like, I just have unfinished business. Like there's still things that I need to do here, and I'm not ready to step away. And I realized that nobody was putting me at choice but me. Like, y'all, nobody was putting me at choice. Nobody was like outside with a torch, like, you must choose, like burning my, my license in my social work degree, or like, burning whatever, you know what I'm saying? We don't need to beat that home, but like, nobody was making me choose but me. I was putting myself in a box where I needed to choose. And I have never been the type of person that is just satisfied with one thing. I have always been the type of person that like, I love so many things. So many things are interesting to me. I love learning. I'm always reading. I'm always listening to like a podcast or something. And I just like, I could never choose. And then I realized like, no one is telling me to choose. So I don't need to, I don't need to quit my job to become a coach. I don't need to devote every waking moment of my day to coaching in order to change lives. I can be really specific on who I want to coach with and who I want to work with, and go after those people so that the time that I do devote is so fulfilling. So these small layers of decisions for me happened over a very short amount of time. It was like, once I started thinking about this, like I followed the breadcrumbs, like one breadcrumb to another, like one really thought-provoking question to another. And I just kept following them. So if you are that type of person that you have a ton of interests, and you don't know what to do with them, and part of the reason why you haven't really committed to anything, any of them, or gone full force with any of them, is because you're worried about what people might think. It's a complete lie and a limiting belief that's living inside of your head, because there are people that need you to just like show up as you are right now. Like they don't need you to choose. They need you as you are now. So the other piece to this that I think is important, and practically speaking, is like, I had financial goals for myself that led to me staying in my full-time career and doing coaching. I have financial goals that having like both pieces of that income has been really helpful. And that's a logistic thing that I thought through as well. And for me, coaching was a way to encompass everything that I love, helping people, all my extroverted tendencies, my love of public speaking, my love of learning, getting to come in contact with so many different types of people coaches in the industry, and work with different types of clients, picking my schedule, dressing how I want. Oh my goodness, I can dress however I want, and no one's gonna question why I wear makeup and why I look cute because I'm not in a I'm not in a hierarchy anymore, or whatever, So coaching was a way for me to get all the things that I want, but just a lot faster and on my own terms. And the results have been I have a thriving business during this pandemic, and I'm waitlisted, and I have more joy in my full-time job. I definitely have days where I'm tired, but I show up for those clients better because I'm fully aligned in the things that bring me joy. Before I did coaching, the back half of my day when I was done with my full-time career, I would just lay on the couch and not do anything. I would just lay there, and for me, that wasn't serving me. Just laying around and soaking in all of the things that I've been talking about and hearing all day, it wasn't serving me. And so now that I have something that's thought-provoking and brings me a lot of joy, and I feel like it's fun, I just show up differently in my full-time career, and I've gotten more leadership opportunities. I've taken a lot of the skills I've learned as a coach and implemented them in my full-time career. And I've made I've made some really big moves in my full-time career that I don't necessarily think I would have done had I not, pivoted into coaching. So I think the two main questions that you can ask yourself is what is your gut telling you? You know, like if you have a pit in your stomach when you go to work every day or you clock in, your intuition is talking. If you feel flutters when you like think about the thing that you're considering pivoting to, or, you know, just shifting over to completely, your stomach gets flutters, your intuition is talking. If you can't stop thinking about this other thing, your intuition is talking. Listen to it. Especially if you identifying as a woman, like ours is so strong, listen to her. And if you don't wake up, like if you're not, that question I asked at the beginning, if you're not waking up excited and energized and hopeful and with purpose, then a change likely needs to be made. And once you start, like once you make the choice, you make a decision, you are like things are either going to fall into place, or you're going to gain a lot of information through trial and error really quickly. That's going to redirect you to the course that you need to take. But nothing changes if nothing changes. So if you're not happy, you're not waking up, excited, and you're waking up in dread and anxiety, then like something probably needs to change. So I want, like in closing, just, be asking yourself, like, what's one decision that you could make today? What's just one small thing you could do today that would honor the way that you want to feel tomorrow when you wake up for work? What does that look like? I don't know, but that's what I would leave you with. So happy to take any questions.
Q&A. That's amazing, Sam. Like, that really hit me when you said nothing changes if nothing changes. I was like, ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. That really hit me. All right, everybody, put your questions in the chat. If you're watching on Facebook, put them in the comments. If you want to ask verbally and you're watching on Zoom, you can raise your hand and I can unmute you. You can ask Sam directly if you have a question. What do you want to know about career pivot versus overhaul and what that entails? While people are getting their questions in there, I do have a question for you, Sam. Like, I know that can like become like an all or nothing story a lot of times. Like, like either I have to overhaul my career or I'm stuck where I am. So what do you recommend for people listening who aren't sure what that middle ground even looks like? How to make like just a little pivot that can make like a huge shift for their experience?
I think so, like what comes to mind for me is like two practical takeaways. First is like start writing the way that you feel. Like start doing some type of documenting of like your daily life, whether that's through journaling. I don't like writing, so I use voice message, like I voice memo myself, but just start tracking like how you're moving through your day right now so that you can figure out like what parts of your day or your schedule you do enjoy, like what reinvigorates you, or what's putting you to sleep, and what's making you just feel like the day is dragging. And then notice those things, and then those very specific details can kind of help lead you into the next step, I suppose. Like I said, the very first question I asked myself is like, how am I waking up in the morning feeling? And when I realized I was feeling a lot of anxiety and I just like wouldn't want to work 8 to 4:30, I was like, okay, so I don't like having to work Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. What can I do? Like, what's an action I can take to try to lighten that up or to try to change that? And for me, it was like, well, maybe entrepreneur is the thing. Like maybe that is something that I'm interested in. So like following those breadcrumbs of details, starting to document out your day, finding what is hard and what is bringing you joy. And then the other thing is like really truly consider talking to a coach. I have a lot of people ask me like, therapy or coach, like therapists, this is not their realm. This is not our realm, but coaches, like this is like, that's the exact question that you take to a coach. That's the exact dilemma that you work on with a coach. So take that to somebody. You've just talked to like 12 of them today, or like learn from 12 of them today. Take that to a coach. So
yeah, spot on. Totally. Let me check Facebook here for questions. I was really intrigued, Sam, by what you were saying about like, you know, doing both actually fueled both. Like you feeling like really aligned with the coaching thing helped you show up even more on the job that originally you were like, do I really want to do this? And so how did you take that leap? Because I know sometimes too, like it can seem scary, like, oh gosh, I'm going to double my workload. I'm going to like all these things can come in where it's like, am I spreading myself too thin? So what was that tipping point for you where you were like, I'm going to take this leap and actually see what happens?
Well, it was, for me, it was like the moment that I, like the thought, like it was the moment I realized that nobody was choosing for me and nobody was like putting a fire to my butt. So even if I made the decision, like to do coach, like to, you know, even if I had started coach training and I had realized like a month in, oh, this probably isn't for me, I was still going to get something out of it that I was going to apply, whether it was like personal development or just leadership skills in my full-time job. But also it was just getting, it was just like, it was getting out of that limiting belief that nobody was making me choose. And if I didn't like it after all, then I could just go back to what I was doing. Or if I, you know, and then, so that was the first thing, was getting through that limiting belief. But then the second thing was getting really specific on what my capacity was to work. So for me, like I'm very protective of the boundaries of how much coaching I do. So I only take a certain number of clients. I started off with doing only individual coaching, and I just launched my new group program, Clear and Confident Woman. I just coached that, or just launched that this week, and that it's been a year. So I paced things out at a way that wasn't going to make me burn out. I did things like very slowly, and I maintained boundaries. So, you know, I had a life and I had time to do the things that I enjoy. Boundaries are so important regardless of the industry that you're coming from. So I got really serious on those.
Yeah, especially if you're straddling like more than one type of like career path at the same time. Yeah, boundaries, you're going to have to make sure that, one's not overtaking the energy, the time, the space that you have for each one.
But like, you know, your limits. So like, if you're someone that you know your capacity is this many hours a day or whatever, like honor that. I have always been this way, where I'm always doing, like I said, I'm really extroverted. I've always been like on the go. I live alone, and I like talking to people. Like in a way, my business, my whole career has really kept me going throughout this really hard season that we've been in the last year, because it's kept me connected to like humanity and the great parts of humanity. And so you just have to, you know, honor the things that you have the capacity for. But again, nobody's telling you have to do something a certain number of hours a week. If you're an entrepreneur, like you get to make all those decisions. So
totally. Yeah. And I think that's interesting, like permission too, that it doesn't have to look like all or nothing. Like I quit my job and I'm doing something totally different. It can look like both and in that transition, for sure. I was one of those people, I like quit my job with no plan B and was like, sort of forced myself into entrepreneurship, because that's how I roll. I was like, I'm not going to do it full on unless I like literally like just dive into the deep end. So, you know, there's no,
and I'm the opposite, where I was like, if I dive in the deep end, I'm gonna have another quarter life crisis. I'm gonna have another crisis, and I'm gonna be like, what the heck is going on? And I'm going to be in overwhelm. Like, so from like, again, like same decision point, but like honor what you know is true about yourself. Like you are the expert on you. You know, no,
doesn't have to look any certain one way, for sure.
Yeah.
Any final questions for Sam about career pivot or overhaul? I'd love to hear just in the chat, like everybody who's watching, what you feel for yourself at this moment in time. Are you like priming yourself for a career pivot, a career overhaul? I'd love to just like get a little temp check in the chat to see where people are sitting after hearing all of this valuable information. If any of you want to connect with Sam, her information is in the workbook. Let me see what page that is. Page 15, you can find out how to connect with Sam, learn more about what she's up to. If coach training is part of your journey, if that's part of your pivot or your overhaul, you want to actually jump into the coach world, coach training, people, a lot of people at this point in time, right? So we're in enrollment for our next round of IGC coach training. We start on the 31st. So we have a couple weeks here. I encourage any of you who are wondering about this, I'm putting a link here in the Zoom chat. Book a call with Katie or Liv. You can explore, is this part of this path for you, your pivot, your overhaul, whatever that looks like? Is coach training part of this puzzle? Katie and Liv can certainly help you unpack that and figure out what's best for you. And FYI, there's discounted rates for all of you Limitless attendees. So wink, wink. If you check that out with Katie and Liv, they'll give you more information. All right, Sam, that was lovely. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your insight with us and inspiring me to keep exploring what's possible. I appreciate
thanks for having me.
Of course. Up next, we've got our final speaker for the day, our headliner, Katie DePaula, CEO of Inner Glow. Katie is going to talk to us all about how to get rich, being yourself. I'm like, sign me up. Let's do this. I got my notes handy once again.
Same. She's gonna drop some nuggets.
Exactly. Let's take a little breather. We'll take a quick little 5-minute break and we'll meet back here with Katie. See you in a minute. Welcome back. As you can see, we have the amazing Katie Paula here with us for our final talk of the day, our headliner, CEO of Inner Glow Circle, Katie Paula herself. She's going to let us know how to get rich being ourselves, which
Let's get rich.
do it. All right, Katie.
How's my sound?
I can hear you just fine. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Great. I'll hand it over to you. Take it away.
Thank you, Kelly. Okay, great. What if I told you that you could get rich just by being yourself? That it was possible to make hundreds, thousands, even millions of dollars with your knowledge, your heart, your life experiences, your intuition, even your laugh and your smile? What if I told you that the key to making as much money as you want was just being you? So you met 11 other women today that are proof that this is real. Now I want to tell you my story. I'm Katie DePaula, and I've built my entire career by getting paid to be myself. I'm a successful entrepreneur. I've built 3 companies. I founded Inner Glow Circle, and I took it from $0, completely self-funded, to a 7-figure business, to $1 million business. And I've coached thousands of women, and we've graduated over 600 students now. I also am a #1 best-selling author. I published my first book at the end of last year, At Least You Look Good, Learning to Glow Through What You Go Through. And we became bestseller in 5 categories. I've been featured in Time, Entrepreneur, Forbes, and asked to be on over 50 podcasts. I also recovered from the loss of my youngest brother and beat Lyme disease after 30 doctors said I never would. So I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to help women glow through what they go through by telling their stories and building profitable personal brands along the way. That's why we're here. But it didn't start like this. 10 years ago, my career aspirations were quite simple. All I wanted was to be able to leave work, go midday shopping, and not get caught. And because I literally can't sit at a desk all day, I would leave work and I would go shopping. And I'd stretch my break way past lunch. Inevitably, I would walk back into the office with a glare from my boss, late for a meeting, and wondering where in the world am I going to hide this bag with the top that I just bought in it. I was really not happy. And when I say I was really not happy, I mean I was really, really unhappy. And I started to wonder if it was possible to live a different life, a life on my terms, a life where I got to do what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. So I want to ask you this. Have you ever felt like your life didn't match who you were? Maybe you feel like that now. Have you ever wondered how it would feel to live completely on your own terms? That's where I was. So let's fast forward for a minute. The other day, I wanted to go shopping in the middle of the workday. So I did. And I wanted to work out too. So I actually made my shopping trip a workout. I walked 2 miles over a bridge in 80-degree weather to shop. But that wasn't all I did. On the way, I made some calls. I jotted down some ideas in my phone notes, and I thought about things a little bit. I thought about life and I thought about business. It turns out thinking is actually working. And I did. I bought a top and a dress, very cute. I sat on a bench and had a smoothie, and I actually called Inner Glow Circle COO, Liv Chapman, who you heard speak earlier. We made $50,000 in sales from our ideas on Friday to pay our team to reach more people. And I'm not sharing this to brag, although I completely think it's okay for women to brag. I share because you're allowed to have a business, make money, and make an impact just by being yourself. You see, when you get rich by being yourself, money comes in every direction. Gifts, investments start to pay you back. You start to get clients, referrals, opportunities show up. Money shows up when you show up. That's how this works. And if I could tell the 22-year-old me that was essentially skipping work to go shopping one thing, it would be this. Katie, you don't have to change. You don't have to fit into a box. It's actually possible to make money by being who you already are. Your God-given gifts, all your quirks, it all works. So I want to know if you connect to this, so raise your hand. But I always thought I was too much self, too loud, too wild, too free, too perfectionist, too silly, too talkative, too lots of things. I had too many ideas and too much to say. And my desk jobs weren't huge fans of all that Katie-ness. But I'm the boss of me now. Now, Katie-ness makes me money. It provides for me. And it allows me the freedom to travel, work, live, love over and over again, which means all the midday shopping and workouts that I want. So I want you to say it with me. Say your name. We can't hear you. So say your name. Say meanness makes me money. Katie-ness makes me money. Meanness makes me money. I want you to write it down. After jumping around with a few jobs after college, I decided there had to be another way. So in 2013, 8 years ago, I made a bold decision to get certified as a life coach. I didn't know if people would pay me. In fact, I thought that they probably wouldn't. I didn't know if I would get clients, but I wanted to see if it was possible. I wanted to see if it was possible for me. I was 25 years old at the time, and surprisingly, I did well. I built a 6-figure business in 2 years, and I was getting paid to be me. It was easier than I thought. And I was blown away that people were paying me to talk to them on the phone or on Zoom. This was wild to me, a total miracle. Then I started a program for life coaches and turned that into a 7-figure business. Then, when I got diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease in 2014, after a decade of being sick and not being able to get any answers, getting paid to be myself took on a whole new meaning. I was able to get paid while working from the bed, the couch, or even the bathtub, like I joke about in my book. But it's not a joke. It was exactly what my life really looked like. I started to tell parts of my story online, and clients hired me to help them with their challenges. People who had chronic illness came to me, sharing their stories and saying that they wanted to hire me to help them. I was getting paid to be me. And this time I was getting paid to even share the parts of my life that seemed embarrassing or vulnerable. My story was making me money, and not just the good parts of my story, my whole story was making me money. This was mind-blowing to me. I grew up in a family that was very much about keeping up appearances and looking good. That's why my book is called At Least You Look Good. But I had to roll with what life was sending my way and trust this reciprocal relationship that I was starting to experience. And then when the biggest tragedy of my life struck and I lost my youngest brother to an accidental overdose in 2015, I started to tell that story too. I wrote my book, and now I'm asked to be on panels, to speak at hospitals, to talk to donor committees, to raise awareness for mental health so that we can all be better about taking care of our mental health. Earlier this week, I was filming for a mental health fundraiser that will reach millions of people. All they wanted me to do was tell my story. Everybody has a story. You have a story. And we're all here because we have something to give back, something incredible to contribute to the world. People who want to glow through what they go through come to Inner Glow Circle every single day. They watch our videos, they read our emails, they connect with us on social media, they purchase our courses, and they become certified coaches with us. They follow us because we're being ourselves. For me, becoming a coach saved my life and it made my career. It opened the doors to becoming a #1 bestseller, building a 7-figure business, training hundreds of coaches, and building a great team. So now it's your turn. How can you become the boss of you? How can you get paid to be yourself? I'm going to take you through a 3-step process to get crystal clear on this. Your smile, your voice, your looks, your skills, your education, your perspectives, they're exactly right for your client. That's how this works. Going shopping or working out in the middle of the day are respectable goals. And for me, that's how simple it was. But what they really represent is something so much deeper, so much bigger: freedom, and beyond that, possibility. I wanted to know if it was possible to make money and not be tied to a desk. What I've learned is this: the more yourself you become, the wealthier you become. Wealthy in money, wealthy in love, wealthy in satisfaction, joy, purpose. If you want to get paid to be yourself, the first step is this. #1, you have to understand who you are. So I want you to journal on this. Who are you? Who are you? What do you love? What's important to you? What makes you happy and what annoys you? Write down all of your gifts. Write down all of your skills: writing, speaking, organization, making people laugh, bringing people together. What is it? Then write down all of your assets. What do you have? Do you have time? Do you have money? Do you have energy? Do you have love? What do you have to give? Is it a fresh perspective? What do you bring to the table? And what do you have to offer others that will benefit them? #2, why do you need to be rich? Here's the thing about money. Money needs a plan. Money needs a plan. What's the bigger purpose of the money? What initiatives will you start? Who will you help? Who does it serve when you are well-resourced? How will you give back to the world and say thank you for the abundance that life has brought your way? This is what I believe. I believe that money belongs in the hands of women who know what to do with it. And money isn't just about cash, it's about legacy, resources, possibility, and the ability to make an impact. Step #3, learn how to get paid. Ask yourself this question: if you could get paid to do anything, what would it be? We want to dream big, think big here. Getting paid to be yourself means doing what you already love. The only difference is you're getting paid for it. So go back to who you are. What are all the ways that who you are could make you money? And make this your mission. Start researching how to get paid for the work you love to do. Maybe you take a class. Maybe you hire a coach. Maybe you go through a course or get certified as a next step. If there are any skills that you feel like you need or that you want to have, make a plan to get them. Learn how to turn what you love into your career. This isn't an overnight thing, but it is 100% possible. And learn how to turn what you love into a career that pays you well. You can get paid to be yourself. For me, it changed my life, my business, my bank account, all of it, all of it. Okay. If you're comfortable, I want you to close your eyes just for a moment. I want you to envision a life where you can get paid to be yourself. Your needs are provided for, your family is taken care of, and all you have to do is show up and be you. How does it feel? What are your days like? How are you spending your time? What do you see? And when you're ready, open your eyes. And I want you to write down one simple action you can take to start to bring this new life into reality. There's always a new level, a next level. So keep dreaming big. You really can get paid to be yourself. Thank you so much.
Amazing. I love hearing your story every time I hear it, Katie. I'll never hear it enough. Frankly.
No.
I'll hear it every time. Amazing. Thank you. Let's jump into Q&A. So any of you listening in, put your questions in the chat, or on Facebook, put your questions in there. If you're watching live on Zoom, you can also raise your hand and I can unmute you and you can ask Katie what you've got to ask verbally too. So let's get the questions in this space. While we're waiting for those to come up, Katie, I do have a question to get the ball rolling here. I'm curious for you, like, how your vision of what like success, what this like richness, wealth, like how has your relationship with that concept changed over time?
Juicy question. I mean, some of it I spoke to in my talk, which is like at first it was when I was younger, it was just about freedom, like freedom of time. And like, can I make enough money to pay for my apartment in New York City and like go out with my friends and go shopping on my lunch breaks, you know? Like that was what it was. And I wanted to have more depth in my life, but I didn't really understand what that would look like. And then as I grew as a coach and as my life changed and handed me all these big challenges, it it became about more depth and more possibility, really just in every area. I mean, to me, wealth and being rich and feeling rich is certainly about health. I mean, if you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have your health, and I've had that before where I was bedridden and you feel so trapped. And so that has been like a huge thing for me, is seeing what's possible there. But I think that wealth and being rich to me are really just about possibility in any and every area of our lives.
Love it. We have a question here from Kendall in the chat. What do you love about your coaching programs?
About IGC's coaching programs, I love everything. I mean, I love that they were, babies that I birthed into the world with so much support and partnership, very much including yours, Kelly. But I think that, to be specific about IGC, what I love most is our focus on teaching our students how to get a return on their investment. I mean, this is what we do in the very beginning of coach training. Before class even starts, we sit together and map out, where do you want to be in 6 months, right? And what do you want to create in every area of your life? And we have to ask, we have to prompt people like, well, what do you want to create financially? Okay, you want to create that much in income. What about in savings, right? And so really asking people to look at all these different areas of their lives and then saying, what about your relationships? Oh, well, I'm married, I'm good. Okay, well, is there another level of depth, of richness in the relationship? And I think often we live lives, and I was certainly like this at one point, that are sort of robotic, and we just don't realize that we can think outside of the box or the cubicle or the desk or whatever. And for me, I think understanding return on investment is not just about money. It's about what return do you want to get? And my goal is to get all of our students and everybody that I come in contact with thinking like this. Anytime I invest anything, what do I want to get out of it? Like, what is the reciprocal relationship I want to be having with life?
With life in general. Yeah, with life.
With life. Nothing big, just life.
Just life.
Just life.
Awesome. Let me look at my questions here. So Oh, here's another one that popped up. Great. You mentioned sharing your stories of illness and growth through grief. Can you tell us how being a coach helped heal you simultaneously?
Totally. Great question, Danielle. I think that um, being a coach, I'm so grateful that I was already trained as a coach when shit hit the fan in my life. I honestly think that's like a direct sentence from my book, which is right here, by the way. Hi, guys. But I'm so glad that I had that baseline training, because to me, what coaching teaches you is so much about resilience and how to work with what life gives you, you know? And even like as a coach, I'm a tennis player, not like a pro tennis player, but as a hobby tennis player, a high school tennis player that's still playing. And so, you know, when you're playing tennis, for those of you who either do this or can envision it, you're receiving the ball and you're hitting it back, and you're receiving the ball and you're hitting it back, right? And you're responding. Coaching is the same thing. You're receiving a request or a complaint or a, you know, whatever, wherever your client is in that moment, whether they're complaining about their life or their partner or just sharing, or they have a request, you're receiving something and then you're responding back. And so life is really no different than coaching, in that you receive something and you respond, and then, you know, everything keeps communicating. And so I had this foundation of understanding resilience and understanding that I could bounce back. I could bounce back from a conversation. I could bounce back from a situation. And I also was taught in coach training, and we teach this in coach training, to ask the question, what's actually possible? What's actually possible? And so what happened, I talk about this so much in my book, so I don't want to spoil it, but what happened was 30 doctors told me that I would never get better, that I would never get rid of my Lyme disease, that I could only ever go into remission, I would never get rid of it. And I kept having this thought. This thought was, what if they're wrong? What if they're wrong? What if there's one doctor or one way or one opportunity? What if there's one? If there's one, then it's possible for me to find it, right? And I think that, um, you know, with my brother, it was similar. So many people told me that I would never heal, that it would always hurt so badly, that I would never be able, like, that I would always be in pain. And I remember saying, like, dude, like, thinking to myself, like, bro, I love you. And I don't even think you want me to be in pain for the rest of my life. Like, I realized that we take on grief because we think it honors the dead. This is my perspective, and that, like, Bo's good and he wants me to be good. And so I had to really make sense of this and make peace of it. And so the possibility there was, is it possible? Could it be possible to make peace with Bo's death and not only celebrate that he lived, but also get to a point where I could celebrate his death, and that his death and everything that came from it, us starting a foundation, me talking about mental health, me sharing my story, me getting mentally healthier and keeping myself in check, would actually be worth it. And worth it is such a weird way to say it, but that it could make all of this sort of make more sense in the brain, because grief really messes with your head and it doesn't make sense. And so I needed to make it make sense. And so I sort of started to write my own story there.
Love it. Yes. Let me check Facebook, see if there's any questions there. Final question for you then, if there's none other in the audience. If there is, please put it up. Now is your time. What do you really want everyone listening here to take away from your experience and your talk?
I just really want you to ask yourself what's possible. Like, I'm the biggest whiner. Kelly knows this because she has to work with me. I'm like, I get frustrated. I'm like, I can get moody, right? Like, I'm a human. I'm a very humany human. Kelly's like, you're not that bad, but you know, but I can get in my stuff, right? So you can't say like, oh, well, Katie, you're really positive. Oh, Katie, you're this, because look, I think I can probably beat you on like the side of, resistance. I'm like the hardest person to coach. Like my boyfriend, poor thing, he's like, you're really uncoachable. I'm like, yeah, okay. I know I'm uncoachable. So, anyways, my point is, when you've got those parts of yourself that come up that are super uncoachable, that really attach to the resistance, that have all the reasons why you can't, or why you'll never succeed, or why you're the exception to the rule, I just want you to ask yourself what's actually possible. Like, I have to say that to myself, I swear to you, multiple times a day, every single day. What's actually possible? What's actually possible? What's actually possible? If there's like a tech glitch, like we had a tech glitch early, right? Like, I'm like, okay, well, what's actually possible? Maybe something fun will happen, or maybe, and so really asking yourself, instead of getting frustrated by the ways that life kind of glitches in the matrix, asking yourself what's actually possible, and then playing from possibility.
Mm-hmm. Amen. I'll take that.
Amen.
Put it in my pocket and save it for later. Love it. So amazing. So thank you, Katie, for sharing your story as always and letting us in on what's possible with whatever is in our spaces. Cool. If you want to reach out to Katie, Katie's contact information is also in the workbook, so you can connect with her. That would be page 15, I believe. I tried to write them all down. 16, lucky number 16 in the workbook. So you can connect with Katie there along with her journal prompts. Katie, tell us what's next. How can people connect with you about coach training?
Yeah, so I would love to talk with you. I've spoken with a lot of you, and I actually ended up speaking with quite a few of you today. And so the best thing to do is go to innerglowcircle.com/book call. Innerglowcircle.com/book call. Kelly just posted it in the chat again. We're going to send it out after, but I recommend that you go ahead and get on either my schedule or Liv's schedule now, today, and you grab a spot. It doesn't have to be for today, but for soon. And that we chat, that we have a conversation about your goals, your dreams, your past, your present, and what's actually possible for you. So we'll take really the themes of this whole day, Limitless, and talk to you about your life and what is possible and what being limitless would look like for you. And coach training starts, we have 2 classes, one starting March 31st, one starting April 1st. These are the most transformational experiences you will have in your life. And I can't wait to work with you.
That's certainly like the number one thing we hear from students is, sure, I knew I would learn like coaching skills and how to be a really solid coach, but I had no idea how much I would like personally transform through the experience of going through coach training. It really is a transformative experience.
Like really shedding those fears. And you know what, you saw it. I love that you said that, Kelly. Like, and you've had your own transformation. Kelly's been with us since the beginning of time. But every single person that you heard speak today has been a student of Inner Glow Circle's coach training, with the exception of Liv, who was one of my very first clients. And I know she really told you guys I went so hard on her. I wasn't that critical of a coach, but the point is, look at the success. But you've seen these transformations, and it's so hard, probably because you're like looking at these incredible women telling these incredible stories, so animated, so dynamic, so sure of themselves. And, like I'll speak to Sam. When Sam says like she really wasn't sure and she really was like teetering the line, I think she signed up for coach training like the day before it started or something.
She was like 2 weeks after it started. She came in really late.
Oh, really? Okay. So I knew it was like last minute, and I talked to her after she had talked to multiple people. And it's so funny because when you see Sam now, you would have thought she was like early enrollment, like super early, like signed up, knew what she wanted. but she really didn't know. And, you know, it's just really beautiful to see people's transformations, but you're seeing the after stories for all of us. And you have an after story too, and we'd love to be part of your journey.
For sure. Yes.
For sure.
Gives me life seeing all the students transforming through training. Really keeps me going. So,
Kelly, thank you so much for doing this today. You were the best MC ever.
Thank you. I had a blast getting to talk to everybody and connect with everybody and see all you attendees and field your questions. It's been a joy of a day to be here with you. We will be sending a replay out to all of you attendees, by the way, so stay tuned for that. That will be coming soon. Book your calls with Katie and Liv, as we've been mentioning today, and get yourself into training if that's the next best step for you. I would love to be there for you because you'll get to know me real well in coach training.
And if you're not sure, we can totally talk about it. You don't have to be sure to get on the phone. So I love to connect with all of you. And thank you again so much.
Yes, thank you. Have a good rest of your evening, and thank you so much for joining.
We appreciate you guys.
Bye.
Bye.